Minister Keir Starmer and Brazilian President Lula da Silva. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also just landed at the Waterkloof Air Force Base. BMA spokesperson Mem Mokgotsi says the country's ports of entry are fully secured and ready to accommodate the influx of G20 delegates.
Despite the heightened security environment, increased traveler volumes, and the complex coordination required across multiple ports of entries, all arrivals were processed efficiently. Our system across key ports of entries are fully operational, supported by the BMA ICT technicians deployed strategically at OR Tambo International Airport.
To a story now we've been tracking all day. Non-profit organisation Women for Change says the fight against gender-based violence as well as femicide is a long battle that it is willing and committed to taking on. The group spearheaded a nationwide demonstration which has seen thousands of people turn up to honour women who lost their lives to GBV. Some present at Constitution Hill in Johannesburg say they need to see more tangible solutions to end the crisis. Ntokozo Khumalo reports.
Emotions are high at Constitutional Hill. Mothers can be seen comforting their very emotional children. Women, children and members of the LGBTQ plus community have come in their numbers to support calls for the end of GBV. The demonstrators are joined in song as they mark an end to this demonstration for the end of assaults of women and children. Women for Change spokesperson Cameron Kasambela.
We're so grateful to have had the support and the turn up that we had. We're so grateful to have seen so many women, members of the queer community and men coming forward to support this very important day.
Demonstrators are urging government to do more than just talk. Ntokozo Khumalo, Eyewitness News, Constitutional Hill.
At the same time, members of the ANC's Dala Omar constituency in Cape Town are marching through the city centre this afternoon. They are demanding jobs and a safer as well as a more affordable city for all. Hundreds of demonstrators have converged at the Civic Centre and will also head to Parliament. Camry Clark reports.
Scores of ANC supporters have marched to the Cape Town Civic Centre this afternoon. The ANC Dala Omar constituency is here to hand over a memorandum of demand to Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis. They say Cape Town has the highest electricity prices on the continent and are, among others, demanding the city provide 200 kilowatts of free electricity for the poor. They're also calling for the subsidization of minibus taxis and a municipal wholesaler that will sell food items at cheaper rates to spazas and to shops. There's also been a call for the anti-gang strategy presented by Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia to be implemented in a city they say has been labelled the murder capital of the country. The demonstrators are now headed to Parliament where they will further voice their concerns. Camry Clark, Eyewitness News, the Civic Centre.
To this now, NPA head Shamila Batoyi has accused Johannesburg prosecution's boss, Advocate Andrew Chauke, of acting without legal authority in the prosecution of former KZN Hawks boss Johan Booysen. Batoyi is back on the witness stand at an inquiry looking into Chauke's fitness to hold office. It's alleged that Chauke led the prosecution's team that was assembled by former acting NPA head Nomgcobo Jiba to prosecute Booysen and the Cato Manor unit in 2015 in KZN. But Batoyi, who is the main complainant at the inquiry, has been testifying that Chauke acted outside of his jurisdiction.
The essence of the allegation against Advocate Chauke is that he exercised or purported to exercise prosecutorial powers and functions in circumstances where he had no authority to do so and no such powers. He undermined or attempted to undermine the authority of the acting DPP of KwaZulu-Natal.
And an unknown number of girls have been abducted from St. Mary's Catholic School in Agwara in central Nigeria. According to local media, armed gangs stormed the school's hostel in the early hours of this morning. Security forces and the military have been deployed to search for the missing learners. It follows another school abduction in Kebbi State, where 24 schoolgirls remain missing in a separate church attack this week. 2 people were killed and several worshippers were kidnapped, heightening concerns over Nigeria's worsening security situation. Gold is trading at $4,074.78 an ounce. The rand is at 17.24 to the dollar, 22.53 to the pound, 19.87 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $62.54 a barrel.
At this stage in Tembisa, heading towards Irene, slow-moving traffic. This is on the R21 northbound, approaching Olifantsfontein Road, also in the Roodepoort area. Heading towards Four Ways, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on the N1 northbound between the N17 and 14th Avenue.
In your sport, 19 wickets fall on day one of first Ashes test. Kagiso Rabada to miss the Proteas' second test against India. And Dane van Niekerk recalled to Proteas women's team for their white ball series against Ireland.
It's a partly cloudy Friday in Gauteng with thunder showers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 26 and 27 degrees. The top story in EWN, the Border Management Authority says the arrival of several heads of state has proceeded smoothly with no disruptions reported at ports of entry.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Very good afternoon, everyone. It's 8 minutes past 3 on Friday, the 21st of November. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you are listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. As South Africans take to the streets today in protest against gender-based violence, government has declared that the high levels of GBV in our country represents a national state of disaster. That seems to promise action, but in practice, how might this strengthen the fight against this national scourge? More on that with author and activist Benita Meyersfeld. We'll talk to her at 10 past 5. Some other stuff we're covering as world leaders continue to fly into various airports for the G20 summit. The scrap between South Africa and the United States remains unresolved. We'll take a closer look at that after 4. In particular, what might be the long-term implications for South Africa taking this stand? The Springboks face Ireland in Dublin tomorrow, with history weighing a little heavily on our team. You know, we haven't beaten the Irish at home since 2012. A 16-12 win on that day for the Boks, who actually trailed 12-3 at half-time. So what does Siya Kolisi's team need to do to post another W in Ireland? We'll talk to Jean de Villiers, who starred the last time we won in that country. We'll talk to him at 20 past 5. And in our weekly feature, A Song, a Book and a Dish, we'll be joined by actress and accent coach Fiona Ramsey. We'll do that at 20 to 6. We've got all that and a whole lot more on 702 Drive, including breaking news, news from the roads in our regular traffic updates, and the latest from the markets. The JSE is having a sort of a hide behind the couch day, really. The market's suffering mightily today. The all share, listen to this, down by 3,410 points. That's a loss of around 3%. There is red ink everywhere you look, but mining stocks have the deepest shade of that color, really taking a beating, with the resources index down by 5.3%. Illustrated by a few examples: Sibanye down by 8%, Anglo Gold by 6.5%, Goldfields by 6.1%. Tough day for our currency as well. The rand is currently trading at 17.39 against the US dollar. That's a loss of 16 cents compared to this time yesterday. A euro will cost you 20 rand and 2 cents. That's a 17-cent loss. 22 rand 72 will get you a pound. The rand weaker against sterling by 21 cents. At least the oil price is down by 28 cents. Brent crude currently trading at $62.82 a barrel. Stephen Critters joining us with all the details at 25 past 4. We'll get sports later in the show. That's at 20 to 4. Mbali Dlamini has the latest news, headlines, and Karabo Chale is keeping an eye on the roads. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live and listen. And if it's happening in 702 land, you'll hear it here first. With your help, of course, if there's a story you know about that we haven't perhaps plugged into yet, contact us on 072 702 1702. Of course, you can use that number for WhatsApps, text, and voice, and to engage with us on anything you like. Might be a story we are covering, but you don't agree with the way we are putting things across. 011 883 0702 if you'd like to give us a call. 3 on this Friday as the rain clouds gather and the heads of state fly in. It's 3 on 702 Drive.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
As always, lots to talk about, lots to ask questions about, lots to think about. When it comes to expressing our thoughts, though, sometimes we use language that isn't necessarily in one of the dictionaries. Take your pick, Oxford or Chambers or Merriam-Webster, Webster. Anyway, dictionaries. Slang. We have wonderful slang in this country, and of course we import a lot of slang from other parts of the world as well. Not everything we use is completely unique. I was just wondering, though, I had a two-part thought that I wanted to share with you, and I'm going to get some help from my younger and, dare I say, more plugged-in colleagues. What are the latest sort of phrases and words, slang words that people are using? And then I had this question as well. Should there be an age limit on these things? Like you guys you're going to share some stuff with me. And then if you hear me using it, there might be a bit of an eye roll and saying, we really wish we hadn't told him because this is not for people born before the date of X. I know that many of you interact with young people. It might be at the workplace. It might be when you get home with your own children or kids in your care. And they come back and you say, what are you talking about? What's that word? So share those with us as well. It doesn't have to be slang or phrases that you actually use yourself or were involved in the generation of it in some way. It could just be stuff that you hear from the younger and hipper people around you. Not that age and hipness is directly connected, but there is a relationship. Refuwe Letsua, we are relying on you for some brand new phrases and slang. Doesn't have to be like today's, but any time in the last 6 months.
All that pressure. Good afternoon, John.
Yes.
And to the rest of the 702 family. So there's a word that I like now. It's sitch for situation.
Yes.
What's the sitch?
Mm-hmm.
It's cute.
Yes.
Yeah. But if you don't know about it, you'd think someone is saying stitch as in,
Oh, really?
it's
But
a stitch.
that's been around for a while.
Yeah.
But it's making a comeback?
I guess it's like these latest slangs where they cut the words short because
Yes.
I know my son's friends, when something is suspicious, they'll be like, yeah, that's sus.
Yeah.
That is sus.
As short for suspect.
Yeah,
Yes.
suspicious.
So I
is
think
suspect.
let's put this to use now. So in a moment you're going to give us the traff.
Yeah.
Let's have the traff, Karabs.
That could work. That could work. Yeah, I'll give you the trap.
It could work. I can see people like sort of reaching for the dial. What's happening in the traff?
Oh, there's
Karabs?
dills. Delays, dills, no?
No,
That might
no,
we're
that
gonna get
will
lost with
confuse
that.
people.
I think Traff does make a bit of sense. Sitch makes a bit of sense as well.
Sus is good.
Sus also.
Yeah.
Fit for outfit. That
Oh.
also, yeah.
So that's not shortening, it's just taking the last
yeah,
bit.
fit.
Okay.
I like your fit.
I like
today.
your fit. Okay.
But I thought it was drip. I like your drip.
That's our age.
Oh, is
Drip is our age. It's
So
old
so
school.
who says fit?
It's the young'uns.
But then fit is used in other ways. In the English, for example, if they think that this is going all this, I got this
Yeah.
from watching Ali G. But if someone looks really sharp, say, oh, he's well fit,
Oh, yes.
I haven't
yeah,
heard
yeah,
it like that with the
Yes.
with the young'uns, but for me, the fit was just the outfit. No, I'm gonna go buy a fit at Mr. Price today.
Okay.
Yes.
You are.
Yeah.
You got.
But you know what throws me off? There was a little saying that my friend, she's in her 40s, late 40s, she's like, no, that man's got pipes. And I'm like, when you say pipes, are you talking about a plumber? And then she was like, no, his vocal ability, he
Yes.
sings well. I didn't know you can say, John's got pipes. I
Yeah.
also thought he was like a mechanic or something like that.
You clued up with this slang.
So
thing,
I
eh?
first heard somebody referring to someone with a great voice as having great pipes. I kid you not, in the late 1980s.
Really? So it's
yes.
coming back?
Yes. So
Yeah.
maybe there's nothing new on this planet. Hey?
No.
It's all just recycled.
Yeah, I guess it is, eh?
Yeah, round and round we go. But there must be new stuff. Come on, let's hear it from you, please, on 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. Just by the way, on that sus short, that's a bit suspect. In Britain in the 1980s, they had a kind of a stop and search law that the police could implement. They could stop you if they believed they had a reasonable suspicion. And those became known as the sus laws. But I don't know if that was in the title. I'll Google it while you're giving us the latest track.
Okay, John, let me get serious. At this stage in the Southgate area, expect about a 20-minute delay on the N12 westbound between Xavier and the Diepkloof interchange. Roodepoort, also slow-moving traffic. N1 northbound from the N17 all the way to 14th Avenue in Midrand. The N1 is restricted to traffic between Allendale and the Batloo. That's for the G20 convoy making its way through there. In Glen Austin, Midrand, still bumper-to-bumper traffic on Allendale Road between Old Pretoria Road and Mastiff, and in Tembisa, traffic is sluggish. R21 northbound approaching Olifantsfontein Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
For generations, the world has spoken about Africa.
More needs to be done to ensure that the prosperity is broadly shared.
Now, for the first time, the world's leaders gather on African ground.
This summit's location underscores the need for African voices to be heard.
On the 22nd and 23rd of November, the G20 summit lands on our soil. A moment where South Africa doesn't just host the conversation, we help lead it.
The majority of the 54 nations that now comprise Africa were never offered a seat at the table where plans for a new world order were being drawn.
From solidarity and equality to food security, poverty and climate justice, this is where Africa's voice rises, not as an echo, but as a force. And as history unfolds in real time, EWN, 702 and Cape Talk bring you closer to every decision, every voice, every detail that shapes our future. Stay with us and stay connected to the story being written on home ground, on air, on the EWN app, and on primemediaplus.com.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Dreaming of a tropical escape? World Leisure Holidays has your ticket to paradise with exclusive getaways to the Indian Ocean Islands. From the beaches of Mauritius and the Maldives to the charm of Madagascar, Seychelles, Zanzibar, and more, your dream destination awaits. Take advantage of early bird specials and pay stay offers. Call 011-285-2500 and mention 702 for a mystery discount. Or follow us on social media or contact your nearest travel professional. Start planning your escape today. T's and C's apply.
Progress builds. It moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With a 1 billion rand investment into education in our host communities, $15 million pledged to the Global Fund to support community-based health services, 1.6 billion rand in deals facilitated through our Impact Finance Network. And as a sponsor of B20 and G20, we're bringing that same spirit of partnership to a global stage, proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. South Africa has a partner. Join the conversation on social media. Anglo-American, mining potential, building beyond.
In case you missed it, 702 was in conversation with Santam about Santam's partnership with the G20 taking place in Johannesburg.
We've got an opportunity because Africa has got the youngest population, and that there needs to be focused in terms of harnessing this critical skill. But Africa is also prone and vulnerable to natural disasters. So what we've done, for instance, as Santam, is use the same template of a program like P4R to expand some of the programs to countries like Namibia.
Santam is a proud sponsor of the G20 Summit. Santam, this is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer, and the controlling company for its group of companies.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. It is coming up for 21 minutes past 3. We are going to, in a moment, or a short moment away, hear about how a company in Pretoria actually successfully got money out of the Tshwane Metro Council because a sinkhole opened up outside their place of business. They lost business as a result, as you can imagine, and the city had to pay up. We'll get some insight into this from attorney Ian Ellis. That's coming up shortly. But first, let's bring in our EWN reporter colleague, Khumotso Modise. You heard her a little bit earlier in the news bulletin with Mbali Dlamini talking about National Director of Public Prosecutions Shamila Batoy giving testimony at the legal inquiry into the fitness of Director of Prosecutions in South Gauteng, Andrew Chauke. The inquiry is into his fitness to hold office. Khumotso, very good afternoon to you. Shamila Batoy has been testifying now for quite a while. How far has she got and what are the key points she's made? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Yes, the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batoy, has been testifying this week. She may have been on the witness stand, or she could have been on the witness stand a little longer, John, if the commission or the inquiry was not experiencing the number of delays that it's experienced. And today has been no different. We've had an early adjournment, but for the time that she's been testifying today, John, she's been speaking about what informed the decision for her to review the prosecution of Johan and the Kato Manor unit. You remember that the point of contention here was whether or not Boyson should be charged with that racketeering charge, and it's something that had, that it's a decision that had been criticized quite a bit. The lawyers for Andrew Chauke, John, had argued that that decision was made by then prosecution's boss or acting boss, Advocate Nomgcobo Jiba, as well as the former NPA head Sean Abrams. And their argument is that Andrew Chauke merely carried out the decision that had been made by Jiba at the time. But today, Shamila Batoy has pointed out that Andrew Chauke had no business carrying out this prosecution or leading the prosecution's team because he was the head of prosecutions in Johannesburg and not in KZN. And she's basically saying that he stepped into the terrain of the KZN prosecution's boss in carrying out this action. So that's really been at the heart of the testimony today. But Shamila Batoy has defended her decision, John, to review that prosecution of Johan Boyson, saying that she'd been advised by a panel that she had put together, and that panel came back to say that the racketeering charges were unlawful and that the prosecution should stop.
So in terms of who's up next, I mean, what direction is this going in? I did hear a comment by legal analyst Jean Redpath a couple of days back. I think she was on Newsroom Africa, saying that she was concerned that the inquiry is focusing very narrowly on two particular cases and matters, and that there are many wider concerns that have been raised about the way Andrew Chauke went about his job. What's your sense of who's coming next and what the focus might be?
Well, John, that's an important point that you make, because today proceedings were postponed because the chair of the inquiry, and that is retired Justice Besun Kabinde, pointed out the importance of narrowing down to the terms of reference of the inquiry. And it's correct that the terms of reference are mainly around the Johan Boyson Kato Manor matter, as well as the prosecution or the failure to prosecute Richard Mdluli, former crime intelligence boss, for murder. Those are the two main cases before the inquiry. And we heard Justice Nkabinde today saying the documents that are before the inquiry should be aligned and limited to those terms of reference. So in terms of this prosecution or this inquiry, John, that's all that's being dealt with currently. And it's important to note that Advocate Andrew Chauke is not being investigated for anything else at this point. And at the crux of the complaint that was laid by Advocate Shamila Batoy with President Cyril Ramaphosa are these two cases.
Thanks so much, Khumotso Modise. Well, they are done for the day, done for this week, but that matter resumes next week. And I'm sure Khumotso will update us on that as it unfolds. 25 minutes now, past 3 o'clock.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Very interesting story by Roy Cocaine on the Money website caught my eye, and basically I'll summarize the first paragraph. City of Tshwane Metro has failed in an attempt to rescind two High Court default judgments, ordering it to pay Crawdaddy's Good Food and Pub Company in Centurion an amount of close to 64,000 Rand. as a result of a sinkhole that appeared in front of the restaurant's premises. Now, some of the matter before the court was about the fact that the city didn't respond and didn't pay what it was owed and so on. But I was intrigued by that you can get compensation from a metro or an agency of government for something that happens that prevents you from doing business. Now, I wonder how many of you out there know it. Maybe this is very, very common, but I'm a little surprised that there wasn't a deluge of lawsuits during the time of load shedding. Let's get some expert opinion on this and try and understand it better. Attorney Ian Ellis joins us now on 702 Drive. Mr. Ellis, welcome and thanks very much for your time. This struck me as very interesting and striking, but you may well say, actually, this happens all the time. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John, and good afternoon to the listeners. This is pretty much, it's old-style litigation with regards to commercial damages.
Right.
And that is, as long as you could prove that there was a cause and that the negligence led to you suffering damages, it's pretty much the same as whether you're in a car accident or whether it's you fall or you slip into a pothole or fall down an escalator, that type of thing. So it's pretty common in normal litigation circles. What makes this one a bit more bizarre is the basis that it was served on the municipality. The municipality did absolutely nothing, and now they come in and say, number one, they didn't ignore the summons, and secondly, they're saying they're not dealing really with the facts of whether they were negligent or not. They're trying to rely on another aspect, saying, oh, well, to refurbish the sinkhole will cost us, I think it was 25 million rand. We only have an allocated budget for 4 million rand, so that's all so we can't do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, my mind's just sort of thinking of other scenarios, Ian Ellis, and let me run one by you. So let's say you run a laundromat in the southwest part of Johannesburg. It's become common cause that because the city failed to pay contractors at the Brixton Reservoir, the improvement in the water situation in that area was not done as speedily as it should be. I mean, could you as a laundromat owner say, hey, listen, I don't have water, I don't have business, I don't have customers as a consequence. This is how many days of trade I've lost. You owe me.
Technically, you can. And this is the thing, but it's a hell of a lot to go ahead and prove because you need to say specifically how the party was negligent, and it hinges on what is called causation.
Okay.
And that's what the whole basis is. What did they actually do to either cause the damage or not, or avoid the damage? And that's what it basically comes down to. So, like, for example, with regards to where we had load shedding, there was contemplation with that, and that's why a lot of people had insurance, and there was a lot of insurance claims and parties suing one another because they, in essence, couldn't get around the effects of load shedding with actual ESCOM, because what they were basically saying, it's not us being negligent, it's we cannot go ahead and supply because we cannot go ahead and produce as much. So the factor is we're warning you in advance that there's going to be a potential for risk, and therefore you need to go ahead and take your, and that's where you decide to take your chances. You can get an inverter, you can get solar, you can go ahead and get hamster wattage, however you want to go ahead and do it. But this is the thing. We are going to have load shedding at certain points. You are then welcome to go ahead and do as you please. If you don't choose to go ahead and turn off your appliances and turn off your geysers and turn off your plugs, and warned you. So that's basically their avoidance, their attempt to mitigate what their potential damage could cause.
Thank you so much, Ian Ellis. I find the whole scenario quite intriguing. I mean, if you could demonstrate causation, I think was the word he used, and trace a line backwards of culpability and moments where other choices could have been made that meant that you wouldn't be without water and therefore unable to run your laundromat. Anyone else out there maybe contemplated this? Maybe you've actually tried to get compensation from an arm of government. I know there was a time when they said if you hit a pothole and you need to get new tires, get in touch with the city of Joburg. Did anyone ever try that? And if you did, how did you get on? Call us with those, please, on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. It's 29 minutes to 4. Bali Dlamini joining us with the very latest eyewitness news. GBV very much in the spotlight today in Bali.
That's correct, John. A very good afternoon. Some participants at a demonstration led by advocacy group Women for Change are hopeful that today's activities will inspire women across the globe to take action. Thousands of women heeded the organization's call today, clad in black and purple, to shine a spotlight on the growing scourge of gender-based violence as well as femicide. While government has classified GBVF a national crisis, many citizens lay in silence for 15 minutes at midday to honor women and children who violently lost their lives. Yokai Munetsi is a Zimbabwean activist who joined today's demonstration at Constitution Hill in Johannesburg.
This is not South African. This is a woman issue. Whether you're in Botswana, whether you are in Angola, Kenya, we have a lot of cases of women who have been killed by their loved ones, by their relatives. We have patriarchal barriers that are still limiting,
According to the latest statistics, at least 6,000 women fell victim to GBVF annually in South Africa. The European Union has praised South Africa for putting multilateralism at the center of its G20 agenda, saying the world needs stronger bilateral ties. Addressing a media briefing on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Johannesburg today, European Union President Ursula von der Leyen said the bloc would double down on rules-based trade. European Council President Antonio Costa said the European Union would remain predictable and reliable partners in facing key challenges of financing, climate change, the just energy transition, and enhancing critical minerals. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
A day after signing key partnership agreements with South Africa on trade, investment and critical minerals, European Union leaders say they are committed to further investment when it meets with the African Union next week. In an apparent dig at the United States tariff regime, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the EU is a partner that plays by the rules.
And above all, we deliver mutual gains in trade and investment, which in return delivers good jobs.
Von der Leyen said Africa's renewable energy capability had to be scaled up and its solar potential harnessed.
But for the clean transitions to really succeed, it must happen everywhere. That's important. And this is where reliable cooperation between trusted partners is yet again the best way forward.
Von der Leyen says the EU wants to be Africa's partner of choice in shifting the imbalance in the global $2 trillion investment in clean energy. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Sandton.
And a woman has been sentenced to 20 years in jail for her role in the robbery in which 3 men were killed in Mexico last year. The victims were Australian brothers Jake and Caleb Robinson, as well as U.S. citizen Jack Carter Road. The 23-year-old Agri Giselle admitted during the trial that she had instigated and participated in the robbery of the tourists' belongings while they had been camping in a remote beachside area. 3 other individuals have already been arrested and charged with murder, but they are being trialed in separate proceedings. It's a partly cloudy Friday in Gauteng with thundershowers in some parts. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 26 and 27 degrees.
Southgate expects about a 20-minute delay heading into Soweto N12 westbound between Xavier and the Diepkloof interchange in Diepkloof. There's also slow-moving traffic on Chris Hani Road between the N1 and UJ campus, and in Roodepoort there's slow-moving traffic N1 northbound between the N17 and 14th Avenue.
The top story in EWN. Some participants at a demonstration led by advocacy group Women for Change are hopeful that today's activities will inspire women across the globe to take action.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
The sitting president of the incoming presidency will not be attending the G20 summit as the United States has chosen.
I do get a concern about United States because I didn't believe that one day the country will be like North Korea, where the ideology of the president is more important than the guiding principles of the United States. I'm saying like currently, like countries are now starting to say that yes, we can live without the United States. We can group together without the United States.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
After more than 50 sold-out shows, Universe on Stage duo is back with their new show, The Black Hole Symphony, performed live with the Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra and conducted by Daniel Boyko. This breathtaking, one-of-a-kind exploration of music, science, and cinematic visuals is a symphonic journey through one of nature's greatest enigmas, the black hole. It takes place for 3 performances only, from 27 to 29 November at the Wits Linda Auditorium. Tickets available on Web Tickets.
Your uncle says buy the other brand. He also still uses a Hotmail address. You do you. You do Mini. The Mini Countryman. Available from 9,899 Rand per month with Mini Select Finance. Visit mini.co.za to book your test drive. Select offer only available from Mini Financial Services, a division of BMW Financial Services South Africa Pty Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. Offer exclusively applies to the Mini Countryman. Initiation and service fee apply. Offer linked to the current prime rate, calculated on a 10% deposit, 48 monthly installments, final GFV payment, and 80,000 kilometer contract limit. Changes to the deal and optional extras will impact finance offer. Offer valid until 31 December, subject to stock availability. T's and C's apply.
You are not dreaming. You are repeating. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, Tete John and the rest of the 702 land. It's Malu here in Midrand. So the new age slang word that completely threw me off is the word cap. You know, as in cap, the one that you put on your head, but that's not what it says. So my 9-year-old son has been saying to me when I'm talking about something, he says he starts shouting cap, cap, and he says, no, Dad, stop the cap. And only to find out the word actually means lie. When they say stop the cap, they mean don't lie. Malu here in Midrand.
Madam John, there's this word that is training everywhere. You go to the mechanics with your car that have got a problem, and then they tell you, my bro, your clutch is cooked. And then you go to the 2000s, they call them screw. Everything is cooked. A beautiful girl, she's cooked. An ugly guy is cooked. Everything is cooked to them. So it is their language, it's cooked. Everything is cooked. And this is from Ronald in Johannesburg. Enjoy it. Thank you. And have a great G20 weekend.
Speaking specifically of the slang usage of the word sus, in my early 20s, which was more than 10 years ago now, we used to say, let's go have a sus. As in, let's go have a look, let's go check it out. I used this around a Gen Z colleague, and he looked at me in absolute confusion. And that's how I learned that nowadays they say that for suspect or suspicious. My personal approach is I don't ape the slang usage of the younger generation because it's not my lingo. I don't understand it. It doesn't feel natural to me.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that usage of sus, because that would have been language that I used probably in my 20s and 30s as well, where people would say, have you been to that club? Should we go there? And someone say, well, I'll go a little early and suss the place out. And then if we decide we like it. I said, by the way, the sus laws in the UK brought in the late 70s and 80s. It was actually a stop and search law that allowed the police officer to stop and search and potentially arrest people on suspicion of them being in breach of Section 4 of the Vagrancy Act, get this, of 1824. And you could stop someone if you suspected they were loitering with some kind of intent to commit a crime. 19 minutes to 4.
EWN Sport.
Tola Kelly Mganga, very good afternoon to you. All fall down in Perth.
Absolutely, John, and that's where 19 wickets fell on the opening day of the first Ashes Test as Australia closed on 123 for 9. That's 49 runs behind England as Ben Stokes took 5 wickets after tea. Earlier, the English were bowled out for 172 as Mitchell Starc claimed career best figures of 7 for 58. For the Proteas, they'll play India in their second Test match tomorrow. They'll be without Kagiso Rabada, who's failed to recover from a rib injury, while India captain Shabnan Gill has a neck strain, and in his absence, Surya Pant will lead. For Captain Themba Pavuma, he's discussed South Africa's options as they look to seal a series win.
Kagiso, he's been ruled out, so he won't be involved. Ngingidi, he's been added to the squad. In terms of the starting 11, we'll finalise that tomorrow once we've had one last look at the wicket. Looks a lot more fresher than Kolkata, a little bit more grass on the wicket, so I guess visibly it looks like it'll play a lot better.
Dane van der Gurk has been recalled to the Proteas women's T20 and ODI squads for the upcoming white ball tour against Ireland in December. Coach Mandla Mashimbi has selected her for the national squad for the first time since September 2021. That follows the reversal of her international retirement.
She's been quite consistent the last 2 seasons. Last season she scored runs and she started well this season as well. So I think it would be a no-brainer not to pick a player who is in such good form. Obviously, her name comes with a lot of previous stuff in terms of her being captain and having done well for the team before. But I think she has earned a call-up based on the performances that she's put the last 2 seasons.
Mamelodi Sundowns will start their 11th season in the CAF Champions League group stage with the clash against St. Elo Lupopo. Miguel Cardoso says they need to start off on a winning note as they look to win this competition for just the second time.
We are stronger. We feel that we have more availability of resources, let's say. We even know that we will be stronger in the future as we can recover those resources, and the focus of the team is obviously on the mindset that we need to have to continue to be capable to win matches after matches. That's what is said that is the most important thing.
And Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff has sold 15% of his shareholding in the Formula One team for $300 million. That's to American billionaire George Kurtz. The deal values Mercedes at $6 billion, which is a record for a Formula One team, and only around $500 million less than Manchester United. Tola Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, well, we've got G20, we've got rain. In some places, we've got hail, and we have Karabo Chale to make sense of it all for you.
Well, at this stage, John, in the Melrose area, there's an accident scene, M1 North near Ethel Oakland, causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from Oxford Road in Southgate heading into Soweto. Also expect about a 20-minute delay, N12 westbound from Xavier to the Deep Kloof interchange. In Deep Kloof, expect some delays as well. This is on Chris Honey Road between the N1 and UJ campus, while in four-ways, bumper-to-bumper traffic on Winnie Mandela Drive between the N1 and Erling, Glenhove, Midrand. There's also heavy delays on Allendale Road between Old Pretoria Road and Mastiff, and finally in Tembisa, traffic is sluggish heading towards Irene, R21 northbound, approaching Olifantsfontein Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
3:45, still to come on 702 Drive. We'll be doing a song, a book, and a dish with Fiona Ramsey, well-known actor, but also someone we had on the show a little while back, talking to us about her work teaching South African accents to foreign actors. If you missed that, by the way, fascinating interview. Just go and check it out on Prime Media Plus, our website, where there's a lot of great stuff banked and ready for you to play at a time that suits you. It's 3:45 now, Tolakele. Slang words that are new, that you hear from time to time, or maybe you are tuned in, plugged in, and you don't hear them and go, ooh, what's that? You just flow because you're flowing.
John, I'd like to think I'm not like the other 1Ks. I'm very informed and hip to all the things that people
What
know.
are 1Ks?
Oh, what is John technically? Because he's technically not a 1K. You might be a not. No. Remember the 1Ks start from 1990 up. Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Just for perspective, in 1990, I was 31.
Oh.
Huh?
Wow.
I'm a what? I didn't hear.
0.1K.
0.1K.
Yes.
Hey, I'll embrace it.
So, John,
is there a T-shirt?
The 2Ks are the kids that are born after 2000, like Alpha and Mongezi, and then everybody else below that is a 1K. Apparently, you're a 0.1K, which is people older who are born before 1990. And then the other new term is Dove. Every time like someone says something that like finishes you because you're dead, Dove. That's
because of Hopkirks and
Yes,
does the Undertakers.
Dove, yes.
There we go. I'm picking it up. That's brilliant. So like you dying from laughter, you say, Dove, when you've caught your breath again. Okay, I think I might try that. Or maybe not. Give it a miss. Anyway, here's one. This is complicated. Here we go. From Mati Bella. She says, as a mom of 3 teenage boys, it's a struggle to make sense of their slang. And she gives 2 examples. Please tell birth giver that my stomach consists of nothing. I.e., I guess, please tell mom I'm hungry. Or we be having them unborn chicken babies after the sunrise, which I assume is eggs for breakfast, eh? Oh, man. Okay. Imagine when you have to keep saying to your kids or the young people in your home, sorry, what are you talking about? But I guess that's reality for a lot of people. Matibela, it sounds like they're messing with you, I have to say. 702 Drive, let's catch up with all the traffic.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9. 10th of April, 1993. Janus Valus walks up to Chris Honey's driveway and shoots 4 times. Retired High Court Judge Chris Nicholson says that story is only the cover page. In his new book, Who Really Killed Chris Hani, he argues Valush was the shooter, but not the architect.
Nelson Mandela favored him as his successor, and then there was another camp led by Thabo Mbeki, so there was keen rivalry between the 2 factions.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
For over a decade, Aluma Capital has had one simple mission: to help you secure the financial future you deserve. Over the past 10 years, they've empowered thousands of clients with personalized strategies, expert advice, and impressive returns of up to 13.2%. Whether it's growing wealth, securing retirement, or planning for the unexpected, Aluma Capital is there every step of the way. Visit aluma.co.za today. Aluma Capital is a licensed FSP. T's and C's apply.
At Premier Hotels and Resorts, business travelers staying alone enjoy a complimentary drink every night of their stay. So, whatever your tipple, it's on the house at any of our 24 hotels and resorts nationwide. Book today at premierhotels.co.za.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
The G20 Summit coming to Johannesburg is a stepping stone towards a brighter future for the city. Josie My Josie has launched the Babize Bonke campaign to shine a spotlight on some of the extraordinary champions who are reshaping Johannesburg from the ground up.
Hi, I'm James Delaney, an artist and activist based at Victoria Yards. The last 12 years, I've led the campaign to restore the wilds, from an abandoned space to one of Josie's best-loved parks, with 40 acres of indigenous plants, waterfalls, and over 100 mosaics and sculptures.
Josie My Josie is making the invisible visible, giving the voiceless a voice. It's a movement for the people, by the people, creating a city that we can proudly call Josie My Josie. Come see how Josie does it. A city that's alive, ready, and rising. Prime Media and 702 are proud sponsors of Josie My Josie.
Josie My Josie by Bize Bonke champion James Delaney will be interviewed on Weekend Breakfast by Gugzum Hlungu. That happens at 8 a.m. on Sunday. Don't miss it.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. Well, we talk a lot about sports, and of course, ahead of a big weekend like this one, everyone is looking forward to watching the Springboks. I bet you've got plans, if you love motor racing, to watch the Grand Prix. And of course, the Proteas begin a cricket test match against India tomorrow, the second of two, and an opportunity for the first time in ages to actually win a series in India. In the world of junior sports, of course, there are young people who look up to their heroes and think, boy, I would like to do this. But there's some serious issues that we need to tackle and take on in regard to the sport that young people play. In that world of junior sports, for example, bullying is sidelining more young athletes than Broken Bones ever could. And today we're shining the spotlight on this issue thanks to the Dis-Chem Foundation. For this conversation, we're joined by Supersport personality, rugby coach, former rugby player himself, Jonathan Mokoena. Together we're going to unpack how bullying can chip away at confidence, mental health and performance, and why so many talented kids are walking off the field and staying away for good. If sport is meant to build character, well, then we've got to face some of the things that might be breaking character down. Jonathan Mokoena, welcome. It's good to have you with us on the show today.
Good afternoon, John, and good afternoon to your listeners. Good to be on the show again.
Before we talk about why you're getting involved with the problem, describe it for us. I mean, how indeed does bullying undermine young people? Is it coming from teammates? Is it coming from coaches? Where's the problem?
Yeah, John, look, I think it's basically for me, what I've experienced over the last few years working with young people is the fact that there's no leadership in society, at home, and that being specifically father figures. You know, there's a massive lack of father figures, someone actually giving and sharing and trying to teach the proper values of life. You know, in 99.9% of the cases that I've, had to reject with, I can almost foresee that the dad is not there, hence the kid or the girl or the boy is actually playing out in a specific way.
Yeah, it is a real problem. So where do we start? I mean, I would imagine that you want to stop it as soon as you can. Does that mean we focus on younger age groups, or is it better recognizing the symptoms, whether it's at under 12 or under 18?
Yeah, I think it's a twofold, kind of approach. The one is the younger you can get, these boys or these kids, the more easy and susceptible they are when you try and give them leadership. I mean, I see it with the program that we run out in Claremont. A lot of boys and the girls don't father figure, but when I come in and I kind of, I'm hard on them.
Yes.
I still show them love. I think we kind of reciprocate that a little easier. But then also on the other side, particularly in sports teams, there's always been this culture of initiation. Now, initiation is a physical where you get your spanking, move on. Then there's also the fun element where dress up and everyone has fun, from senior to junior, and that's also another thing where the senior junior hierarchy in a team, in a environment is actually also plays a massive role, because
right.
I almost can guarantee you what, if we have to look back in Molliton, with those boys, the boy that was given or abused, he
Right.
always understood that going into that cloaks, he was going to get a high. But the boys on the other side, they thought and saw that as an opportunity, possibly for the opportunity that they actually went through as well. So it's almost that sick masculinity that just keeps on, repeating itself. Hence, the boys are actually doing what they're doing. And I think if we can get that out of teams and rather have a fun, enjoyable environment, then we can actually kind of, nip it in the bud.
Yeah, it's a very interesting way of looking at that. Let's bring in now in our studio, Jacqueline Karlberg is with the Dis-Chem Foundation, and we've been talking about this because the Dis-Chem Foundation is getting involved in generally trying to promote healthy sports spaces. Jacqueline, good afternoon and welcome. Why is Dis-Chem picking up on this issue, and what are you hoping to achieve?
Hi, John. Thank you. So I'm very fortunate, as you know, one of our beneficiaries is the Humanitarian Empowerment Fund, and we have the benefits of having Jonathan as one of the coaches with a beautiful initiative called the Suzuki Sevens, where boys from 4 schools in the Greater Claremont area are being shuttled because they have no mode of transport to Claremont Primary, which is a school that the Dis-Chem Foundation has largely adopted. And it's a wonderful thing. We've been to watch these kids learning how to play rugby, give them hope, giving them access to a greater sports environment where they can achieve and they can go further. And having somebody like Jonathan train them is just next level. And they recently went to nationals, which Jonathan can expand on for me. And we help these children to ensure that, when they go and they do their rugby training, it's excessive, it's hard,
right?
It's a lot of work. So we ensure that these children have a healthy, nutritious, substantial meal after their rugby training, because they, in all likelihood, don't get when they go home. And you know how close that is to our heart. And everybody wants to achieve, everybody wants to do better, everybody wants to make it, and so the bullying can creep in. So I've become a little bit more aware of it, and I've had this conversation with Cleet from HEF and obviously with Jonathan, and it can grow into a terrifying problem.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, let's return to the sport you know so well, the one you played and the one you coach. I mean, rugby, there is physicality, it's about physical contestation of space, and obviously not just men, but women's rugby in South Africa is starting to thrive as well. How do you strike the balance, though? Because, rugby is tough. You often get told, man up, and, komana, and, everything that goes with the game. But you're working directly in that space. How are you tackling what could be quite a mixed message for a young person?
And it is a challenge. But some of the things that I use is, making it clear that there's no senior or junior in a group. Yes, you might be more experienced, but that doesn't mean you have to walk around open chest and bully everyone and walk around and bumping everyone.
Right.
For me, the biggest thing that I always try and teach and preach to my kids is that you've got to be able to work so hard that no one can actually overlook you.
Yes.
With that, there's a certain set of values that you have to also portray when you're actually working hard. You have to have respect for your elders. You have to have respect for your coaches. You must have respect for your teammates, and how you carry that, how you carry yourself. Is actually being it's no use you're all vocal about it, but you're not showing it, you're not proving it. So those are the ways that I kind of challenge my team or my group with. Because ultimately, I think if we can, if I can kind of break down the hierarchy or senior, junior, I think that's a good way of starting in it. Because if everyone can understand, once I get into a team environment, you put on the jersey, you're equal. Because I think that's probably one thing that the Springboks actually are getting at the moment. They've got a mixture of senior players and a mixture of 120, 37 caps versus a 10-year cap, but yet everyone looks at each other the same way, because when you cross over the line, that's the only thing that matters.
Thank you so much, Jonathan Mokoena. You can watch him on SuperSport. He works as a coach. He's doing a very interesting thing with young people and Sevens Rugby, and he's doing it in partnership with the Dis-Chem Foundation. Thanks as well to Jacqueline Karlberg, who joined us from the foundation. And please do remember, every swipe of your Dis-Chem Better Rewards card helps support the incredible work of the Dis-Chem Foundation. If you are not a member, visit dischem.co.za to find out how you can join the Dis-Chem Better Rewards program, because every swipe counts. 702 Drive coming up for the news at 4. After 4, we're going to look at the battle between South Africa and the United States as the G20 summit is set to get underway tomorrow morning out at Nasrec. We'll get the views of former diplomat and international affairs expert Kingsley Makubela. That's coming up a little bit later on 702 Drive. It's 4 o'clock.
This is EWN.
COCTA explains what classification of GBVF as a national disaster means, and more leaders arrive in South Africa ahead of the G20 summit. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. The Cooperative Governance Department has emphasized that while gender-based violence and femicide have been classified a national disaster, this does not give government access to emergency powers or funds for the cause. That decision to classify GBVF a national disaster follows growing public outcry over the abuse of women and children. COCTA has explained that the classification simply enables government to respond to the scourge using existing legislation. Department spokesperson Pearl Masego says the move will ensure that all organs of state work together for a solution.
This decisive action follows a thorough reassessment of previous reports and updated submissions from organs of state as well as civil organizations. After evaluating the persistent and immediate life safety risks posed by ongoing acts of violence, the National Disaster Management Center has concluded that GBVF now meets the threshold of a potential disaster.
Meanwhile, young women in KwaZulu-Natal who joined nationwide demonstrations against gender-based violence and femicide today are calling on government to pass strict laws to deal with the crisis. With KZN identified as one of the provinces with the most reported cases, hundreds of activists filled Durban streets to add their voices to the cause. Nhlanhla Mabaso reports.
Since December last year, KwaZulu-Natal has recorded a concerning number of gender-based violence and femicide cases. The most recent case was a 36-year-old woman who was beheaded and her body burned. In most of the cases, the alleged perpetrators are men and are known to the victims. Young women took to the streets to voice their fears and frustrations. One of them is Cleo Morrison, who is dressed in all black, carrying a placard which reads, "Enough is enough."
I do not feel safe at all. I always feel like, even to take a walk, if I'm going on a jog, I always feel like I have to have a companion with me because I don't feel safe. And it's not good living in an area where you don't feel safe, that a man might come and harm you. We should be free. We shouldn't feel like that as women.
Meanwhile, Trazen Taylor says if government really cared about the safety of women, today's shutdown wouldn't have taken place.
We are doing work that we are not supposed to be doing. It's been gone for too long. Why has it come this far? If that was the case, if we had the support that we were supposed to have.
In parts of the Durban CBD, a number of people have been seen wearing black and purple, standing in solidarity with the calls to address the crisis. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
NPA head Shamila Batoyi says her decision, which led to charges against KZN Hawks boss Johan Boysen being dropped, was informed by a recommendation from a qualified panel. Batoyi is the main witness in the inquiry into Johannesburg prosecution's boss Andrew Chauke. He is accused of making questionable prosecutorial decisions. Khomozo Modise reports.
While the inquiry is looking into suspended Johannesburg prosecution's boss Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office, today's proceedings were hinged on NPA head Shamila Batoyi's role in the withdrawal of racketeering charges against former KZN Hawks boss Johan Boysen and the Cato Manor Organised Crime Unit. When Batoyi was appointed in 2019, she set up a panel to review the decision to prosecute Boysen, a decision that was made by a team of prosecutors led by Chauke. She says that panel then made recommendations.
The prosecution instituted against all the accused on the racketeering charges based on the authorizations issued by the acting NDPP NGBA and NDPP and the NDPP S. Abrams, as set out above, should be withdrawn.
Batoyi says the essence of the allegations against Chauke are that he had no authority to lead the prosecution team because he was the head of prosecutions in Johannesburg and not KZN. Khomozo Modise, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
We shift our focus to this now. Brazilian President Lula da Silva has joined the long list of world leaders who have arrived in the country for the G20 Leaders Summit taking place in Johannesburg this weekend. Da Silva, who leads one of South Africa's BRICS partners, arrived at the OR Tambo International Airport this afternoon. His arrival was followed shortly by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who landed at the Waterkloof Air Force Base in Pretoria. Babalondenze reports.
Brazilian President Lula da Silva was greeted by a military parade as he touched down at the OR Tambo International Airport a short while ago. Da Silva was the first BRICS leader to touch base just before fellow BRICS partner Narendra Modi landed about an hour after him. The two BRICS leaders have also been joined by the Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre, and Michael Martin, the Prime Minister of Ireland. The two leaders were received by Minister of Social Development Nokzola Tolashe and the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Dean McPherson. This evening, Deputy President Paul Mashatile will host French President Emmanuel Macron, who arrived earlier in the week, to commemorate French citizens who played a role in the fight against apartheid. Mashatile said South Africa and France enjoy cordial bilateral, political and economic relations in areas such as trade, industry, defense and energy. Babalondense, Eyewitness News.
And an unknown number of girls have been abducted from St. Mary's Catholic School in Agwara, central Nigeria. According to local media, armed gangs stormed the school's hostel in the early hours of this morning. Security forces and the military have been deployed to search for the missing learners. It follows another school abduction in Kebbi State, where 24 schoolgirls are still missing. Gold is trading at $4,074.78 an ounce. The rand is at 17.26 to the dollar, 22.54 to the pound, 19.87 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $62.54 a barrel.
In Edenvale, heading towards Germiston, the N12 westbound is closed off to traffic between Edenvale Road and the R24 merge for the G20 delegate convoy. So this is causing about an hour delay. There's also about a 20-minute delay in Bedford View N3 North between the Haldenes interchange and Kililis. Tembisa traffic also sluggish on the R21 northbound approaching Olifantsfontein Road.
In your sport, 19 wickets fall on day one of first Ashes test. Kagiso Rabada to miss the Proteas' second test against India. And Dane van Niekerk recalled to Proteas women's team for their white ball series against Ireland.
A partly cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon thundershowers expected. Johannesburg dropping to overnight lows of 12 degrees, peaking at 28. Pretoria 13 and 30, and Vereeniging 13 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN, the Cooperative Governance Department, has emphasized that while GBVF has been classified a national disaster, this does not give government access to emergency powers or funds for the cause.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
8 minutes past 4 on 702 Drive. Great to have you with us for the second hour. I hope you can stay with us all the way through until 6. Got some good stuff coming your way, including in our weekly feature, Songbook in a Dish. We'll talk to actress Fiona Ramsey. That's coming up at about 20 minutes to 6. Much coverage in the news today about the protests countrywide against gender-based violence and the declaration by government that GBV will now be viewed as a national state of disaster. What does that mean, though? Already we're getting a clue there from Mbali Dlamini in that lead item in the news bulletin. This doesn't necessarily mean more money or any specific powers. What then does this enable? What does this make possible? We'll talk about that after 5 o'clock with a guest of mine, Professor Benita Meyersfeld, who's Professor of Law at the Wits Law School. She's an author and activist around these issues. Springboks up against Ireland. We'll talk to a man who was in the team and played a very important part the last time we beat Ireland in Ireland. That was 12 years ago, eh? Jean de Villiers, I'm sure, will have memories that are very fresh and insights that are very relevant to tomorrow's game. He's with us at 20 minutes past 5. And of course, this being Friday, Randall's One Song, Randall Abrams with us at 10 to 5. It's 10 past 4. We've been asking you about current slang and new phrases that are coming into usage. Let's hear what some of you had to say.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John. During load shedding, I had a power surge which blew a lot of equipment in my house, and I tried to lay a claim. So, yes, you can claim from the city of Joburg for damages and so on, but they have an army of lawyers who basically find every little loophole to actually prevent that payment from happening. So I eventually never got anything, because even though it was their fault that there was load shedding and they are supposed to pay you out because there was a power surge when the power came back, I never saw a cent, because they have this army of lawyers basically mitigating for it. So yes, the systems are there. Does it work for consumers? Absolutely not.
John, good afternoon. Speaking to Joseph here from Sasolburg. Hey, John, my 24-year-old always says, Daddy, when you go to town, you must wash and be clean so that you're going to meet your ops. I was like, what is ops? Who is ops? He said, no, Daddy, those are people who you were working with or you were in school with. I didn't know what does the word ops means. Thanks, John. Nice show as always.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I don't know if any of my ops can tell me what the origin of the word ops is.
I thought maybe it was like the opposite gender, maybe trying to...
No, but he's giving a different meaning. He's saying you meet the people you work with. Anyone know where ops comes from? Give us a call on that on 011 883 0702. When I was a kid, by the way, we're talking like in the 70s or whatever, if another kid had a packet of chips or was drinking a cool drink or whatever, you would say ops. In other words, you're asking for some.
Oh.
And if they didn't want to share the minute they stepped out of the tuck shop or out of the queue, because the tuck shop might have been a hole in the wall, they would say, Nix ops.
Nix ops. Oh, we used to
so
say...
they'd be very quick.
We used to say stall.
Stall?
Yeah, S-T-O-L. Stall.
Okay.
I don't know where that comes from, but
I don't see it making a comeback. I don't think ops is coming back anytime soon. 12 minutes past 4, we're talking slang, the most modern, please. Okay, so Yvonne says ops is operations. Okay, maybe it's derived from that. The people you operate with. I don't know. Anyway, let's see if anyone can add a couple of versions to that. 702 Drive 13 past 4. Let's give you the latest from the roads. This EWN traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. SAA now operates 2 flights a day to Gaborone with morning and afternoon departures. Book now at flysaa.com. The G20 is creating some substantial delays.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, John, yes, we have those delays in the Edenvale area. N12 westbound is closed off to traffic between Edenvale Road and the R24 merge for the G20 delegate convoy making its way through there, heading towards Sandton or either Nasrec. There's also bumper-to-bumper traffic in the Bedfordview area on the N3 northbound between the Haldenays interchange and Gilulis. In Melrose, accident scene M1 North near Ethel Oaklands, causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from Oxford Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Experience Johannesburg to Gaborone with South African Airways, where comfort meets convenience. Enjoy premium service, flexible morning and afternoon departures, and the warm hospitality SAA is known for. For a limited time, return fares start from just 2,762 Rand all-inclusive. Book by 4 December at flysaa.com. South African Airways, bringing you closer. T's and C's apply.
The week
goes by fast.
And sometimes you miss a moment that's got everyone talking.
But don't worry. Catch up on the biggest interviews
The most powerful stories.
and the conversations that move South Africa forward with the 702 podcast.
Every Saturday and Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. It's your chance to rewind,
Reflect and reconnect with the voices that make 702 what it is.
So if you missed it, now's your time to catch up.
Tune in to the 702 podcast. And for more stories, interviews,
And moments, visit primemediaplus.com. 702.
let's walk the talk.
South Africa is taking its place on the world stage at the B20 and G20 Summits 2025. Telkom is proud to stand with the nation, building a digital future that reaches every community. Through reliable fiber, mobile and cloud networks, Telkom is connecting families, small businesses and young people to new opportunities. They're helping drive digital public infrastructure so services are easier to access for all. Telkom, the digital backbone of South Africa's future.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, it started out as a passion and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
Let's count backward. 5. Insurance. 4. Pineapple. 3. Insurance. 2. Pineapple. 1. You're under. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
Hey, sorry for the voice note, but listen, I was there. I saw the receipt. Like, literally, that thing was long. It was giving scroll vibes and everything. Chomi, with this new Discount Better Rewards card, you get 10% off instantly. But like, instantly, on over 140 brands. So look, I don't want to be like, dramatic or anything, but your Discount till slip never looked better. Okay, bye.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. Let's focus our attention now on the upcoming G20 Summit. We will, by the way, as 702, be there on Saturday and on Sunday. I'll be on air from 2 to 4. Clement Manyatela and Stephen Curtis before me. And we're going to bring you some really, really interesting stuff. Good guests, and we'll cover as much live as we possibly can. I guess two things happening at the moment on the immediate front. There are heads of state coming in from all over the world. The airports are certainly busy, and whoever makes red carpets will have done a pretty good bit of business over the last while. On a more perhaps complicated and less clear note, South Africa and the United States appears still behind the scenes to be arm wrestling around various issues. The United States wasn't coming, and then they said, oh, by the way, we think we will come, but only on the last day, and we will be sending, I think it's fair to say in diplomatic terms, and no disrespect to the individual, but given the stature of the occasion, a relatively junior official to step up on stage and accept United States taking over of the G20 leadership mantle. So what's going on, and most crucially, I think, what are the long-term implications of this? For this, some insights into this, we're joined by Dr. Kingsley Makubela. He's a former senior diplomat in the Department of International Relations and is currently director of an entity called Risk Recon. Dr. Makubela, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time. If we look beyond the moment now, and there will be many people who will say the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, and the government is standing up for South Africa in a way that is, reflects the kind of dignity that we would like to be shown on an international stage. Nevertheless, some people are wondering what might the repercussions be down the road, given the muscle that the United States wields both economically and politically. What's your take on this? Is this a storm that will pass, or might there be penalties we might face later?
John, thanks very much for the invitation. The crucial thing now is for South Africa to focus on the diplomatic statecraft. To stand up to the crowd and get into a shouting match, it doesn't help South Africa, given the fact that South Africa will be in the ring in this instance with a much bigger power. The power asymmetry, it's way in favor of the United States in terms of the fight. So it goes back to the principle that you have to pick up your fights.
Yes.
And you have to decide how you fight your fights. If you fight your fights in the manner in which I think we're starting to get irritated as a country, it'll be unfortunate we won't win that battle.
So give us your sense of where we blur the line from strong and determined into irritated and possibly petulant. Have we crossed the line a couple of times over the last couple of days? And if we haven't, how do we avoid doing so in the days to come?
I think, I listened to the Minister of DECO the other day speaking about the U.S. government as a white supremacist, which is a terminology that you have to really use with utmost circumspect. And it's a terminology that a chief diplomat would not willy-nilly use that kind of language because it has serious repercussion. And given the history of what transpired when Rasool used the same terminology, it caused serious tension. So I think he should have been very circumspect about that. I understand the level of irritation that South Africa is starting to get, but that really requires South Africa to go back to the drawing book and use palatable language with diplomacy, that tomorrow you can use the same language standing before the person. Would tomorrow South Africa be able to use the same language standing directly with Trump? I don't think so. So don't say something that you would not say directly. So there's a communication that we ordinary people can do and the language that we can use. But once it reaches certain level, it needs to be nuanced and still focus on point at issue. I'm not saying South Africa should not be very critical of the misinformation that is coming from the United States. South Africa should stay and explain this and showcase that. South Africa has the opportunity to display that. You may have seen the gender-based demonstrations today. It's really a beautiful rainbow of our nation. It reflects the identity of the whole country. So South Africa should showcase those kind of issues instead of really deteriorating to a language that is not palatable with diplomacy. That's my only worry.
Yeah. So Dr. Makubela, let's get your take, please, on the kind of array of, I don't know if forces is the right word, but let me use the more neutral word, support, that might rally behind the position South Africa is taking. Do you anticipate that most of these very, very senior and prominent heads of state from significant countries, and where the heads of state are not here, nevertheless, high-level delegations are present. Do you expect them to get behind South Africa and say, no, we're the G20 and we will issue a declaration, and more than that, we'll issue one that has substance and hasn't been watered down to cater for things that appear to irritate people in the White House?
John, the question of the leaders' declaration is a consensus, and I think for the purpose of your listeners, consensus essentially means we all put 3 issues in the basket and expecting to get one.
Okay.
We're not putting issues that we don't want. We put things that we want and expect to get one. And after that, we start the negotiations to accommodate. If your issue are in direct contradiction with mine, how do we accommodate each other? How do we meet each other halfway? That is the purpose. Now, if you can't meet consensus in terms of the G20, you can't issue out that statement. The alternative is to use the host statement, which is regarded as a watered down, and it will be unprecedented. It has never happened before. It will be the first time happening to South Africa, and it's happening when the G20 is hosted for the very first time in the African continent. So it will be unfortunate to do that. But I think there are things that we've got to be very careful as a country. I mean, this question that the Americans have sent a charge d'affaires to take the mantle for the next host country. we should not get involved as to who represents the United States. It's their prerogative to decide who represents them. If they downgrade that to that level, we can downgrade the ceremony, the handover ceremony. We can even get somebody, a senior official in the presidency, in a quiet room to do a handover with our photograph as a portfolio of evidence that handover was done appropriately, but outside the glare and the humiliation of the media, where President Ramaphosa has to hand over to the most junior person. So that can be done. And that has been done in countries. When you downgrade, you get downgraded services. If you, for instance, you're not a head of state, you can't get a big limousine, you get a smaller car because you're not a head of state. So there are certain diplomatic practices that are quite common that we should have used instead of getting involved in wanting to determine who should represent the United States. I think we're getting into a battle that we can't win. That's not our function. The Russians are sending Oreshnik. He's a senior official in President Putin's office. But he's a senior official. He's not a minister and so on. He may have high stature in terms of the office, but you'd have expected Lavrov to be here. But you can't then have worries about who represents which country. I think South Africa should not get into that space.
Thank you very much. Fascinating stuff with Dr. Kingsley Makubela, former diplomat and director at Risk Recon, and really raising some interesting points and sharing, I would imagine, the benefits of many years of experience of working these diplomatic questions out himself as part of a South African DIRCO team. Not called DIRCO in those days, but yeah, very, very interesting. So he's saying, don't sweat small stuff that you cannot change the outcomes of, and dial back the language, and use the example of DIRCO Minister Ronald Lamola referring to the United States. I don't know if he referred to the president or the administration, but using the words white supremacist. He's saying that's doing us absolutely no good whatsoever. Give us your thoughts on that. There's a lot of food for thought there. You may want to share your views. 072 7021 702, 26 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. SAA now operates 2 flights a day to Gaborone with morning and afternoon departures. Book now at flysaa.com. Karabo Charlie, how are we doing?
Yeah, well, in Kempton Park, the R21 southbound is closed off to traffic between Atlas and Voortrekker Road. This is due to the G20 delegate convoys making their way through to Sandton. Other highways that are affected or restricted to traffic include the R24 westbound approaching Edenvale Road, as well as the N3 between the Giluli's interchange and London Road. In Bedfordview, we're still dealing with that accident scene. This is on the N3 northbound before the Giluli's interchange, causing delays all the way from the Galdenes interchange. Tembisa, traffic sluggish on the R21 northbound approaching Olifantsfontein Road. In Melrose, we still have that accident scene on the M1 northbound near Ethel Auckland, slowing down traffic all the way from Killarney Bend. And in Rudderpoort, slow-moving traffic on Randfontein Road between Corlett and Adcock. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Experience Johannesburg to Gaborone with South African Airways, where comfort meets convenience. Enjoy premium service, flexible morning and afternoon departures, and the warm hospitality SAA is known for. For a limited time, return fares start from just 2,762 Rand, all inclusive. Book by 4 December at flysaa.com. South African Airways, bringing you closer. T's and C's apply.
You're with John Perlman
on 702. EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, very good afternoon to you. Yikes.
I hope you like the color red, John. Good afternoon. Yeah, lots of it. All, in fact, there are a couple of splodges of green, but that's pretty much it across my entire board. The JSE All Share down 2.07%, 109,581 points. I can't remember when I last said 109,000. Financials are down 1.65, industrials down 1.34. Resources, they were down 4% earlier. They're down 3.62% at the moment. So a big sell-off in global markets around the tech sector. Despite that, futures markets in New York are looking up at the moment. So yeah, resources weak weaker as well. All of that having quite a big impact on the JSE today. Cell C's listing on the JSE next week. Well, they might want to think again after looking at the markets today, but they're due to list next week. They've announced that their listing valuation will actually be, I think, significantly less than we first thought. So earlier this month, if you looked at the share price and worked it all out, it would have a valuation of around 12 billion rand. The final offer price they put on Sense today, it'll have a capitalization of about 9 billion rand. I mean, that's a quarter. No other details on that. And Blue, currently the parent of Cell C, their shares are down by around 6% on the day. John, it's mostly mining stocks in the main sort of ones. So you're looking at the platinum and gold shares are all down really quite strongly. They're not the only one, though, because there is also some news coming out of SPAR today. And SPAR reporting that, in fact, their headline earnings per share to the end of September are expected to be down by around 12%. Now, that's despite the fact that, in fact, its group revenue growth improved in the second half of the year. You would think that that would make things better. The group also says the sales of SPAR Poland, SPAR Switzerland have enhanced their financial strength. Their gross profit margins are also up, but they're down 4% on the day so far. So we are having a bit of a tough time as SPAR. And then there are some positives. AB InBev are up 2.88, British American Tobacco up 1.83. These are often defensive stocks. Karoo is up 1.37. In the US, as I say, futures markets do have the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq heading up. There are still sort of conversations around another interest rate cut in the US, and the expectations that tech stocks will stabilize after what happened last night. Meanwhile, the gold price, $4,074.44 an ounce. Platinum, $1,518.28. Brent crude, $62.48. The rand to the dollar, 17.39 to the euro, 20.01 to the British pound, 22.73. Stephen Krotis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. Back with us in about 55 minutes' time. Let's bring you the very latest eyewitness news right now with Mbali Dlamini. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen says it's unbefitting of incoming hosts for the United States to snub the G20 Leaders Summit this weekend. He says the world superpower has not done itself any favors by boycotting most of this year's meetings and isolating itself from the global community. Steenhuisen says he agrees with President Cyril Ramaphosa that it would not be proper for the US to send an embassy delegation to receive the presidency. Lindsay Dentlinger spoke to him on the sidelines of the G20 bilateral meetings.
John Steenhuisen says given that South Africa will form part of the troika of G20 hosts next year, it would have been better for the United States to have had a delegation participating in this year's G20 program. He says it's to be expected that G20 countries will not always agree on all matters.
Particularly when you're the incoming host country. I think that was poor form. And I think that no matter what you think about the G20 and what you think about South Africa, the institution is important.
Steenhuisen points out that as this year's G20 host, South Africa will still have an important role to play at next year's G20.
And I think it's very, very important that we go in there and take what we've asserted and what we've achieved in this G20 and make sure that it does find expression in that G20.
He says although the absence of the US in discussions on agriculture have been challenging, he believes this year's meetings have still produced a good outcome. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Sandton.
It was an emotional day for thousands of women who joined in on the Cape Town leg of nationwide demonstrations against gender-based violence and femicide. Today, the shutdown was organized by NGO Women for Change to highlight the crisis of violence in the country. In April, Women for Change handed over a petition to government asking for GBV and femicide to be declared a national disaster. A similar petition recently garnered more than 1 million signatures. Carlo Peterson reports.
About 3,000 women and anti-gender-based violence supporters dressed in black took part in an emotional demonstration at Sea Point Promenade today. Those who had gathered lay down on the grass for 15 minutes at noon to mourn the 15 women who are murdered in the country every day. Many of the women could be seen shedding tears as the names of the women who were murdered in incidents of GBV were read over a loudspeaker. Advocacy Coordinator at Women for Change, Melisa Jogiat.
And it's been a very emotional day. We've had women crying because we recognize how many sisters we lose to femicide every day. And I think the turnout has been incredible. But I think now everybody deeply resonates with the losses that we keep having because gender-based violence and femicide is not actually being really dealt with.
Jogiat says she hopes the shutdown will spark more meaningful conversations to address deeply rooted cultural issues around GBV and femicide. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
Earlier today, government did announce that it has officially classified GBVF as a national disaster. Further afield, Taiwan has lifted all remaining restrictions on Japanese food imports, ending bans that were introduced after the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. The Taipei government says extensive testing on more than 270,000 batches of Japanese food has shown a zero failure rate for radiation. Officials have also confirmed that safety controls have now returned to normal. The move comes as a diplomatic show of support for Japan amid tensions with China, which criticized Taiwan's leadership over the decision. A partly cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow with afternoon thundershowers expected. Lows of between 12 and 13 degrees and highs of between 28 and 30.
Kempton Park, R21 southbound remains closed off to traffic between Atlas and Fuatreka Road. This is for the G20 delegate convoy making its way to Sandton. At this stage, if you're heading towards OR Tambo International Airport, you can expect more than an hour delay all the way from the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Other highways restricted to traffic at this hour include the R24 westbound approaching Edenvale Road, as well as the N3 north between the Gilulis interchange and London Road.
The top story in EWN, Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen says it's unbefitting of incoming hosts for the United States to snub the G20 Leaders Summit taking place this weekend.
For generations, the world has spoken about Africa.
More needs to be done to ensure that the prosperity is broadly shared.
Now, for the first time, the world's leaders gather on African ground.
This summit's location underscores the need for African voices to be heard.
On the 22nd and 23rd of November, the G20 summit lands on our soil. A moment where South Africa doesn't just host the conversation, we help lead it.
The majority of the 54 nations that now comprise Africa were never offered a seat at the table where plans for a new world order were being drawn.
From solidarity and equality to food security, poverty and climate justice, this is where Africa's voice rises, not as an echo, but as a force. And as history unfolds in real time, EWN, 702 and Cape Talk bring you closer to every decision, every voice, every detail that shapes our future. Stay with us and stay connected to the story being written on home ground, on air, on the EWN app, and on PrimeMediaPlus.com.
Unbox Black Friday with At Home. Enjoy up to 70% off selected homeware and furniture, from elegant dinnerware and timeless decor to inspiring furniture pieces, including two-seater couches from 8,250 Rand. Save up to 40% on towels, up to 50% on cookware, and so much more. Shop in-store or online now on Bash. TFG rewards members only. T's and C's apply. At Home. Imagine more.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 Rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The Dial-A-Bed Black Friday sale is now on with 20% off absolutely everything. Start Black Friday shopping today and save thousands on all our best brands. 40 Winks, Sealy, Simmons, Dunlop King Coil in all sizes, all less 20% and all ready for fast delivery. Dial-A-Bed. Sleep for life.
As South Africa assumes the G20 presidency in 2025, 702 and Standard Bank Group bring you exclusive conversations with the voices shaping Africa's economic future.
All African countries borrow on international markets. And if through this particular G20 agenda, we can encourage a situation where African countries find themselves with lower cost debt, then of course it enhances fiscal metrics and fiscal sustainability. Another area of commonality is related to resources. The continent is resource rich, whether it is base, precious metals, or even rare earth metals.
Brought to you by Standard Bank Group on 702. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John. I think there's a saying, if you wrestle a pig in the mud, you will come out second best. So I think maybe then, I think I agree with your guests. We should just be calm and just be dignified in our response to whatever the U.S. is doing. Because I think they're trying to actually do this exactly, rattle our cage and see what and how we are going to respond. So I think the only thing we should do is just be dignified and respond properly without having to swear at them or whatever. And that's how I think this battle will be fought and won. Zuko, thanks.
Good afternoon, Tate John and team. Kingsley from Germiston. I must say I agree with Dr. Makubela that, if we descend into a mudslinging match with the United States, it's going to get very ugly and we're probably going to come off second best. I don't think we should be sort of getting into those kind of politics with the United States. We need to respect the occasion, try and deliver on the mandate that we have as hosts and avoid a mudslinging contest. And again, I really think we can learn a lot from the way the Canadian, I think, Prime Minister, Mr. is it Mike or Michael Carney, the way he's engaged and handled the spat between Canada and the United States, I think has also been very strategic and very smart.
Yeah, very, very interesting views on that and very much prompted by our earlier guest, Kingsley Makubela, Dr. Kingsley Makubela, a veteran diplomat and now involved in an organization that he's a director of called Risk Recon. Before we get into sport, I just want to share this because I'm hoping somebody can help. Barb sent this. She says, I need help. A gentleman driving a green bottle green Grand I-10 was hit by a truck, which we recorded because the truck driver did not stop. We followed him. He finally stopped, and I promised the gentleman driving the Grand I-10 I would send him the video, but I didn't save his number correctly, and I'm looking for him. It was on the N3 South, facing just N3 going south, just after the Van Buren and Germiston off-ramp. So if who knows, possibly you're the driver of that truck, or maybe a family member has said, listen, I just got whacked by a truck on the N3 going south. Maybe you witnessed it. Maybe you can help. It would be wonderful if we could, because smacking into someone and driving off is absolutely appalling. But if we can put that right and play a part, we'd love to do that. So you know where to get us on 072 702 1702. We'll connect you to Barb's, and through that, hopefully, we'll get in touch with the driver who got smacked in this way. It's coming up now for 17 minutes to 5.
EWN Sport.
So, Tolakele, before we get into the sport, I just want to throw this out for the listeners. A little bit later, we'll be talking to Jean de Villiers, who played in the last Springbok team to beat Ireland in Ireland. That was back in 2012. There's a wonderful little curiosity out of that game, and I want to see if anybody can solve this puzzle. Both teams had a hooker named Strauss. Now, apart from the fact that these two men had the same surname in common, can you get in touch with me and tell me? Don't Google it. I'd love to know if anybody actually knows. First of all, what are their first names? But secondly, they had something else in common that bound them together. In fact, two things. If you know them or you want to hazard a guess, get in touch on 072 702 1702. And by the way, on Saturday, each team might once again have players with the same name. I'll talk about that later. Tolakele, the sport, we're starting with cricket.
Yes, John, and the Proteas squad for the white ball tour against India has been announced, and he'll see Captain Themba Bavuma lead the side in the 3-match ODI series, while Adam Markram returns to skipper the T20 side. Ruben Hamann has been included in the 50-over squad, while Andrik Nogia has been named in the T20 outfit. In the interim, South Africa are gearing up for their second test against India, which gets underway tomorrow. Bavuma says there's a feeling amongst the team that they have the opportunity to win a first test series in India in 25 years.
The mood is buoyant amongst the boys. We're excited to try and replicate our performances as we did in the first test. But yeah, I think, like I said, going into the first test, I think it should be an exciting, enthralling one. Everyone is looking forward to it, looking at where the series is at, the whole narrative around it all. But yeah, we'll just try and make sure that we lock in for the next 5 days.
Cole Palmer fractured a toe in an accident at home that will keep him out of Chelsea's key games against Barcelona and Arsenal. It's been a frustrating campaign for the England international, who suffered a groin injury in August that's seen him in and out of the team. For Pep Guardiola, he says the season starts now for Manchester City as they look to remain in the title contention. They take on Newcastle United this weekend, looking to close the gap on log leaders Arsenal.
Top. I never see the table when we analyze opponents. Top team. Have been one of the toughest players in the last years and have been a good games. The atmosphere is Champions League team. So they're doing really well. But we're ready again for a new challenge.
TS Galaxy head coach Adnan Begovic believes that Pagamani Mahlambi can revive his career after he started training with the team. Once touted as the next big thing, having emerged at Mamelodi Sundowns and then moving to Al Ahly, Mahlambi has been without a side since 2021 following a stint at Chippa United.
Everybody deserves second chance. I think that guy is a good human being. I watched some clips when we start to play before for the Wits, Sundowns, and it's amazing player, it's amazing skills. We make that decision with the chairman, and then he asked, we want to try to push him, to try to bring him, to put him back on the business, and it's on him, everything is on him. He need to do that, he need to push, he need to improve.
And the Springboks are up against Ireland in their penultimate match of the outgoing tour tomorrow as they look to keep their 3-game winning run at the Aviva Stadium against the double world champions going. Andy Farrell has shared his thoughts on facing the Boks.
This will give us a lot more idea, wouldn't it, to see where we're at. You know, we've been talking a lot about resilience within our game over the 80 minutes, and you know, there's been some learnings from that along the way, and that was pretty good last week. I suppose that'll get tested to the fore, won't it, this weekend? So I don't think we're just learning about individuals. We're learning about our game and how we're going to progress with that over the next couple of years.
Tola Gilemganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by Cars.coza. Let's find what moves you at 13 minutes to 5. Those road closures, Karabo Chale still having an impact.
Yeah, traffic a bit hectic if you are leaving Ekurhuleni heading towards Joburg. Let me start in Kempton Park. R21 southbound remains closed off to traffic between Atlas and Voortrekker Road. This is due to the G20 delegate convoys making their way towards Joburg. At this stage, expect more than an hour delay if you are leaving Pretoria heading towards OR Tambo International Airport. Other highways restricted to traffic include the R24 westbound approaching Edenvale Road, the N12 west approaching the Gilulis interchange. This is also causing more than an hour delay all the way from Croft Road. The N3 is also closed off to traffic between the Gilulis interchange and the Patlu interchange. Bedfordview, you can expect about a 20-minute delay heading towards Alex. That's the N3 northbound between the Haldenes interchange and Gululis. While in Melrose, there's that accident scene M1 North near Ethel Oakland, slowing down traffic from Killarney Bend. And finally in Roodepoort, slow-moving traffic on Randfontein Road between Collet and Adcock. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
8 out of 10 radio listeners suffer from CAR, or car advertising on repeat. Symptoms include fatigue, anxiety, and confusion. With so many car ads coming at you on your daily commute, buying or selling a car can feel overwhelming. But there is a cure.
Cars.coza. Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to Cars.coza and let's find what moves you. Cars.coza.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, prompted, I suppose, by the rather late communication from the United States saying, yes, well, actually, we will be at Nasrec after all. So, you got to set some extra places at the table and parking and all those kinds of things. But on a lighter note, we'll regard all of that as serious because it is. But this kind of thing happens to us where you've made arrangements, perhaps for something big, a graduation celebration, perhaps a wedding or a christening or whatever it is, and you ask people to RSVP. How do you deal with people who either RSVP really, really late or don't RSVP but still turn up? Karabo Chale,
Sheesh,
I would think you're quite chilled.
I would be chilled, but let me just say if it's a wedding, I'll probably just give them a reminder before the deadline.
Yes.
And just keep on reminding them if I really want them to come. And if they choose to ignore it, I'll tell them after the deadline that, oh, guys, it's your loss. You snooze, you lose.
And if they turn up on the day and not only that, compound things by sitting down in a seat that is actually, when you look at the table plans, allocated for somebody else. They're there and they're determined to actually get a meal.
Determined? That's a bit tricky. Gee whiz, that's going to be awkward. But yeah, obviously I'll kindly tell them, guys, this is already reserved for somebody else. Could you kindly maybe, we'll try and find something for you, but then stand up
next year. How about you, Tolakele? Late RSVPs, because, they're your own events, but, you've given a sense of a few conversations of a group of friends. I'm sure you've been involved in being part of an organizing team for other people. What do you do?
I think I'll send out the initial invite and then I'll do one reminder.
Yes.
Then the week of the event, there is no reminder that will be sent out. If you haven't RSVP'd by then, I'm basically moving on and planning this event without expecting you to be there. If you do arrive, you will be put to the back.
Okay.
You will be put to the back where, unfortunately for you, even though there will be something for you, it's not going to be quite at the level for the people that were kind and courteous enough to plan ahead and say, we will be there.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, leaving their photos at security at the front under no circumstances whatsoever.
That's
ID.
a plan.
Show some ID.
That's an idea.
I think I have a future career as an event organizer. It will be brief. 702 Drive, your thoughts on that. 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. 8 minutes now to 5 o'clock.
Drive home with John Perlman
On 702, let's walk the talk.
Time as it always is on a Friday now for us to enjoy some music and conversations about music of a very, very special kind. It's Randall's One Song in the company of Randall Abrams. And today, Randall, a very good afternoon to you. You're dealing with something new, but by somebody who has produced a really huge body of work. I think it's 11 Grammy Awards now for Brandy Carlisle over a distinguished career. And you've picked a song called Church and State. Before we share the song, share with us a little bit about why you decided to share it with us today. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. A number of reasons. Firstly, Brandy has had a very successful career, as you say, in the US, but I don't know that that's expanded to South Africa, except, of course, for the very new album, which also came out this year with Elton John, Who Believes in Angels, which was very successful. And obviously a lot of work that she's done on the activism front. But I thought when I heard Church and State and I saw there was a live video, she was on SNL, I thought to myself, this is probably the best U2 song I've heard in the last 25 years.
Wow, okay.
So certainly since Beautiful Day from All You Can't Leave Behind, it's definitely the best U2 song. It's certainly influenced by them. I mean, if you go and watch the SNL video on YouTube, you'll see that the guitarist has got a cap on, a woolen cap that's very emblematic of the Edge. But the song obviously has a lot to do with the American Constitution, and Brandy certainly has very specific views about that country. But the new album, the song actually is it's not indicative of the record. The new album is called Returning to Myself, and it's far less overly produced. I wouldn't say that other records were overly produced, but it doesn't have the same level, the same kind of wide production level as previous records. It's a lot more intimate. But this song, if you said, what is the kind of the hit single or the radio song, then this would certainly be the one.
Let's take a listen then. Church and State, Brandy Carlisle has just come out. Church and State, Brandy Carlisle off her latest album. Randall, I mean, such a rich range of artists in, I don't know, what would we call it, the Americana space. She seems to have done a real wide range. I mean, she got a Grammy nomination, for example, for Best Pop Solo Performance. But is this pretty much what she mainly does, or is there stuff that we could look for and find something very different?
So this is quite, I would say this is maybe the most hard-edged that she's been. The record that for me really broke through for her was The Story. And then By the Way I Forgive You, which went on to win the Grammy, again is, as I say, the songs are quite, for want of a better term, intimate,
Yes.
They're quite personal. And they really reward ongoing listening. So this record is obviously, very in your face and very to the point. But if you certainly wanted to look for the type of artist where you may miss one or two things at first glance, then Brandy is certainly someone that you're going to get into. If you're going to want to, get an album that you're still going to be enjoying and learning from in a year's time, then she's certainly that kind of artist.
Thanks so much, Randall Abrams. Brandy Carlisle off her latest album. The song is called Church and State. Randall with us at the same time for Randall's One song next Friday.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
There was a period now where I think many people were like, oh, Brenda disappeared. Tell us what was happening in real life.
At some point, I was dating a German guy,
Yes.
and I went over to Austria, and on one of the trips back, I was sitting at the airport in Dubai, and I was like, oh my goodness, I know the orange lanes and the green lanes of the trains in Austria and in Berlin, but I actually don't understand the Eastern Cape. So when I was sitting at the airport in Dubai, I decided that when I get back, I'm going to get to my apartment in Sandton, packed everything up, took a picture and sent it to my mother, and I said, I'm going home, which was the Eastern Cape. Obviously, she was like, oh,
Brenda, what are you doing?
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Hollywood Bet invites you to take the lead. The sizzling summer competition is giving you a chance to bask in horse racing glory and blaze into red-hot rewards. Bet 50 Rand or more on horse racing online or at your nearest branch and you could win a share of 1 million Rand in prizes. Enjoy a star-studded lineup of equestrian events this summer and settle up for a season of success. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion Rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actors-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
This is EWN.
G20 leaders continue to arrive in the country ahead of a summit, and Cocteau explains what classification of GBVF as a national disaster means. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. The Border Management Authority says the arrival of several heads of state has proceeded smoothly with no disruptions reported at ports of entry. In the last 24 hours, several heads of state have landed on South African soil ahead of the G20 Leaders Summit taking place this weekend. Amongst those who have arrived are Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Brazilian President Lula da Silva, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also landed at the Waterkloof Air Force Base, followed by French President Emmanuel Macron this afternoon. BMA spokesperson Mim Mogotsi says the country's ports of entry are fully secured and ready to accommodate the influx of G20 delegates.
Despite the heightened security environment, increased traveler volumes, and the complex coordination required across multiple ports of entries, all arrivals were processed efficiently. Our system across key ports of entries are fully operational, supported by the BMA ICT technicians deployed strategically at OR Tambo International Airport.
The Cooperative Governance Department has emphasized that while gender-based violence and femicide have been classified as a national disaster, this does not give government access to emergency powers or funds for the cause. The decision to classify GBVF a national disaster follows growing public outcry over the abuse of women and children. Cocteau has explained that the classification simply enables government to respond to the crisis using existing legislation. Department spokesperson Pearl Masego says the move will ensure that all organs of state work together to find a solution.
This decisive action follows a thorough reassessment of previous reports and updated submissions from organs of state as well as civil organizations. After evaluating the persistent and immediate life safety risks posed by ongoing acts of violence, the National Disaster Management Center has concluded that GBVF now meets the threshold of a potential disaster.
Meanwhile, young women in KwaZulu-Natal who joined nationwide demonstrations against gender-based violence and femicide are calling on government to pass stricter laws to deal with the crisis. With KZN identified as one of the provinces with most reported cases, hundreds of activists filled Durban streets to add their voices to the cause. Ntlantla Mabaso was there.
Since December last year, KwaZulu-Natal has recorded a concerning number of gender-based violence and femicide cases. The most recent case was a 36-year-old woman who was beheaded and her body burned. In most of the cases, the alleged perpetrators are men and are known to the victims. Young women took to the streets to voice their fears and frustrations. One of them is Cleo Morrison, who is dressed in all black, carrying a placard which reads, "Enough is enough."
I
I do not feel safe at all. I always feel like, even to take a walk, if I'm going on a jog, I always feel like I have to have a companion with me because I don't feel safe. And it's not good living in an area where you don't feel safe, that a man might come and harm you. We should be free. We shouldn't feel like that as women.
Meanwhile, Trazen Taylor says if government really cared about the safety of women, today's shutdown wouldn't have taken place.
We are doing work that we are not supposed to be doing. I mean, it's been gone for too long. Why has it come this far? If that was the case, if we had the support that we were supposed to have.
In parts of the Durban CBD, a number of people have been seen wearing black and purple, standing in solidarity with the calls to address the crisis. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
We shift our focus to this now. NPA head Shamla Batoyi says her decision, which led to charges against KZN Hawks boss Johan Boysen being dropped, was informed by a recommendation from a qualified panel. Batoyi is the main witness in the inquiry looking into Johannesburg prosecution's boss Andrew Chauke. He is accused of making questionable prosecutorial decisions. Khomotso Modise reports.
While the inquiry is looking into suspended Johannesburg prosecution's boss Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office, today's proceedings were hinged on NPA head Shamla Batoyi's role in the withdrawal of racketeering charges against former KZN Hawks boss Johan Boysen and the Cato Manor Organised Crime Unit. When Batoyi was appointed in 2019, she set up a panel to review the decision to prosecute Boysen, a decision that was made by a team of prosecutors led by Chauke. She says that panel then made recommendations.
The prosecution instituted against all the accused on the racketeering charges based on the authorizations issued by the acting NDPP NGBA and NDPP and the NDPP S. Abrams, as set out above, should be withdrawn.
Batoyi says the essence of the allegations against Chauke are that he had no authority to lead the prosecution team because he was the head of prosecutions in Johannesburg and not KZN. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
And Taiwan has lifted all remaining restrictions on Japanese food imports, ending bans that were introduced after the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. The Taipei government says extensive testing on more than 270,000 batches of Japanese food has shown a zero failure rate for radiation. Officials have also confirmed that safety controls have now returned to normal. The move comes as a diplomatic show of support for Japan amid tensions with China, which criticized Taiwan's leadership over that decision. Gold is trading at $4,074.72 an ounce. The rand is at 17.21 to the dollar, 22.51 to the pound, 19.86 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $62.54 a barrel.
Road closures, highway closures at this hour in Kempton Park, R21 southbound. This is between Atlas and Voortrekker. The R24 west is also restricted to traffic approaching Edenvale Road. N12 west closed off to traffic. This is heading towards the Giluli's interchange. At this stage, you can expect more than an hour delay all the way from Croft Road. The N3 is also one of the highways that are restricted to traffic at this hour between the Giluli's interchange and the Patlu interchange.
In your sport, the Proteas look to make history in India without Kagiso Rabada. Anna Slot says Liverpool will never use Diego Jota grief as an excuse for their poor form. And Miguel Cardoso insists that Mamelodi Sundowns are not obsessed with winning the CAF Champions League.
A partly cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon thundershowers expected. Johannesburg dropping to overnight lows of 12 degrees, peaking at 28. Pretoria 13 and 30, and Vereeniging 13 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN, the Border Management Authority says the arrival of several heads of state has proceeded smoothly with no disruptions reported at ports of entry.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
8 minutes past 5 on 702 Drive. Maredi chips in with a rather wonderful quote from Winston Churchill in regard to how we should be handling diplomatic issues with the United States. He says, I think we have to be diplomatic as, quote, diplomacy is the art of telling people to go to hell in such a way that they ask for directions. On the subject of all of this going on ahead of the Nasrec Summit tomorrow, G20 to give it its proper name, we asked you about how you deal with people who RSVP at the very last minute, rather like the US administration. Play a couple of your voice notes on that in a moment. As regards the rest of the show, after marches all over the country and demonstrations in protest against South Africa's scourge of gender-based violence, GBV has now been declared a national disaster. But what does that actually mean in practice? Professor Benita Meyersfeld, law professor at Wits, joins us to give us her insights. And then we look ahead to the Springbok showdown against Ireland. In Ireland, we have not won in the Aviva Stadium since 2012. Last man to captain a team to do that, Jean de Villiers, joins us with his thoughts and a look ahead to the game. We'll do that at about 5:20.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John. I was actually at a wedding last month where they checked our names at the gate, like right at the gate. They checked your name, and whoever was in the car, then your name had to be there. So I'm assuming that people who were not on the list didn't go in. So that cuts the drama where you as the groom or the bride now have to speak to people, and now it's awkward. I think it cuts all that. We're at the gate, and I'm probably going to be busy as the groom, too busy to answer your call. So tough.
Uncle John, black people don't know how to RSVP, majority of them. They just rock up. I went to a family friend's wedding. I'm one of those, didn't RSVP. And half of the people outside, which was half of the wedding people who attended, did not RSVP. So last minute, they had to get a marquee, get additional plates. But after that event where we were standing outside, I've learned to RSVP because I was so humiliated. Yeah, so from now, my lesson was learned, always RSVP. Even for my events, I ask people, RSVP.
Thanks for those. 5:11. Time to find out what's happening out on the roads. EW in traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. You could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand.
EWN Traffic.
Delays out in Kempton Park, Rabochali, related to dignitaries arriving at OR Tambo.
Most definitely. It is a parking lot. I must describe it as that, John. More than an hour delay. That's if you are heading towards Bedford View, R24 westbound. That highway is restricted to traffic, as well as the N12 west approaching the Gilulis interchange. An hour delay all the way from Croft Road. N3 also traffic is restricted. This is N3 north between the Gilulis interchange and the Batlu interchange. Kempton Park also expect about a 2-hour delay. That's coming from Pretoria heading towards OR Tambo International Airport. The R21 southbound remains closed off to traffic between Atlas Road and Fuatraka Road. This is all due to the G20 delegate convoys making their way towards Sandton. In Kempton Park CBD, there's also about a 30-minute delay on Pretoria Road between OR Tambo International Airport and CR Swart. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance pointsmen can't help with your leaky tap, but they can ease the traffic congestion so you get to the hardware store in time to avoid a flood in your bathroom. With the Outsurance pointsmen on the roads for the past 20 years, we can all get where we need to be quickly and safely. Outsurance really means it when they say you always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using #PointsmenLove, licensed insurer and FSP.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
I mean, guys, if there's one person who has been calm throughout this entire debacle with the US, is our president. Even now, with this thing with the US where they're coming, but they're not, and okay, they're sending this delegation, but they're just coming for the handover, the president still maintains calm. We're still negotiating. We still think the US must play its part. If he was petty, he would have said, don't come. But you will not see that because already you don't see him as a leader, which makes me wonder, like, what's your relation to this country? Because I would believe people are here because they really want to fight for this country. They want to make it work. And that's not to say our president is perfect or this country is perfect. You know how many times we talk about things that are not working in this country. You know how many times we criticize our president. But come on, be a little objective sometimes.
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
As leaders in renewable energy finance, Nedbank has a track record spanning over 100 years. From pioneering large-scale solar and wind farms to financing complex energy infrastructure in emerging markets, Nedbank offers clients deep sector expertise, combined with the ability to navigate the unique challenges of Africa's just energy transition. See money differently. Nedbank. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Progress builds. It moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With a 1 billion rand investment into education in our host communities, $15 million pledged to the Global Fund to support community-based health services, 1.6 billion rand in deals facilitated through our Impact Finance Network. And as a sponsor of B20 and G20, we're bringing that same spirit of partnership to a global stage, proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. South Africa has a partner. Join the conversation on social media. Anglo-American, mining potential, building beyond.
Bring your daydreams to life with Norwegian Cruise Line, sailing to over 400 exciting destinations around the world on 21 spectacular ships. Explore iconic landmarks in Europe, hot islands in the Caribbean, and much more. When it comes to dream holidays, think NCL. For the best cruise deals, visit ncl.com or contact your travel agent. Restrictions apply.
702 was in conversation with Momentum on The Money Show with Stephen Grootes, discussing the power of focus and the science of success.
I think it's a test that most people would benefit from because, when I did the test, I kind of knew how, my relationship with money, but also it clearly stated that I wasn't scared of taking risks and making moves in business. But at the same time, I also had a real fear of kind of, I guess, running out of money or not being able to support my family, and that in the back of my head, whenever I do something, I guess the older you get, the less you're inclined to take risks, and I guess at the end of the day, what I learned from the test is, yes, I am a risk taker, but I'm also conservative, and it's more calculated risks than just wild risks.
Visit momentum.co.za for more info. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. Let's turn then to one of the day's big stories. President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced that gender-based violence in South Africa will be declared a national disaster. This after a day where countrywide women have taken to the streets, raising the issue of South Africa's incredibly high levels of gender-based violence and femicide, but also in very poignant ways, marking individual lives that have been lost, either by holding up pictures of them or paying tributes to people who've been killed. What does declaring it a national state of disaster actually mean, though? Professor Bonita Meyersfeld is Professor of Law at the Wits Law School and someone who's written extensively on this issue and campaigned around it as well. Prof, good afternoon and welcome to you. Is this going to make any substantial difference to either the way in which the law deals with gender-based violence or the resources that are provided for its prevention and mitigation?
Well, the answer is yes and no. So there are two ways in which it could make a difference. And the first is the power of actually using that language of disaster management. in relation to what everybody who has experienced it or been affected by it already knows, that it is a disaster, that it is a disaster of national, if not international proportions. And then the actual technical mechanisms of the Act have the potential to draw together various resources, various different government departments and multiple sectors to actually achieve the mitigation and then ultimately the assessment and therapeutic ending of that disaster. So it does have the potential, but I'm not sure that it will achieve much. And the reason I say this is because with all gender-based violence responses, it is not about the loud calls to action, unfortunately.
Yes.
It is about the tiniest detail that occurs in the process of engaging with the state, of engaging with employers, of engaging with those who are supposed to help and fail to do so.
Sorry, please finish.
I was just going to say that, to my mind, unless there is absolute accountability for the police officer who does not open the report or who tells a rape complainant that she should rather go and negotiate and speak to the perpetrator and his family, to the doctor who refuses to fill out a J88 form because it's just going to take time to go and testify at court. All of those minor, seemingly innocuous or not major problems in the system, all of those ought to be punished, and the people who do it properly ought to be praised. Because only if there's accountability will there be some kind of shift in this.
So we have, as a society and as a country, allocated resources before the teeth of various laws and regulations have been sharpened, and we're not seeing the results. Let's just focus on the resources for a moment, Prof, and ask you this. I mean, the idea that more money necessarily reaches the right places simply because there's more of it seems to belie what is increasingly emerging, that quite a lot of money gets stuck in structures, and when money does get allocated, it's quite often for purposes that are quite performative and demonstration of commitment rather than enabling action.
I think that's very well said. The people who have galvanized this change today, the women who around the country have, in their various ways, been intractable in their demand on government, really, they're the ones who should be saying where the money should go. They're the ones who are at the side of the person who is hurt, the child who is hurt, the mother whose child has been hurt in the most abominable ways. Organizations, the one in which I'm involved, Lawyers Against Abuse, but many others like Power, the Teddy Bear Clinic, all of those organizations have talented, highly skilled individuals who could get jobs in the private sector and earn very large salaries, doing some of the most extraordinarily difficult work in law, in social services, in counseling. And they do it for a pittance, and they do it with notwithstanding that there's no support from a trauma point of view. And if you think that gender-based violence has now finally been labeled what it always is, which is a disaster, a national disaster, a national crisis, then surely they're the people who should be paid the most.
Thank you so much, Professor Bonita Meyersfeld, Professor of Law at Wits Law School. Your thoughts on that? Give us a call on 011 883 0702 and 072702 1702. It's 22 minutes past 5.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Right, let's talk rugby now. The Springboks are in Dublin. They play Ireland at the Aviva Stadium, a venue where we haven't won for a long time. You have to go all the way back to 2012 when we've been successful on Irish soil. Let's welcome to 702 Drive then Jean de Villiers, who was Springbok captain on the day when the Springboks got over the line after trailing 12-3 at halftime, eventually a 16-12 win. Also in the team when we won in 2010, and also in the team, Jean de Villiers, when we lost in 2014. So I would imagine your views of the Aviva Stadium somewhat mixed. Welcome to the show. Why is it such a difficult place to go and win?
Yeah, thanks, John. Firstly, I think we don't play there quite often. We don't play against Ireland really that much. In the last 20 years, we haven't had a lot of fixtures, but it's a difficult place to go. They're a really good team. The last number of years, they've been extremely competitive. And even though we've had good sides at times, they've been able to outsmart us and outplay us. So it's a big game tomorrow. Obviously what happened in the World Cup as well. And yeah, like I said, Dublin is a difficult place to go.
The stadium holds right now almost 52,000 people. What's it like as you step out there? Are the stands very close to the field? Presumably the noise is loud. I would expect the singing's pretty good.
Yeah, look, I just love the Irish as well. Having spent time there playing club rugby, and they're amazing people. They've got lovely voices and they enjoy singing. So whenever the Fields of Athenry starts humming or singing in the stand, it really is beautiful. But they get behind their team. It's a beautiful stadium, very new stadium. I was fortunate enough to play at Lansdowne, the old Lansdowne Road, which was set there, and then they revamped it. So it's a pretty new stadium. It's not too close to the players, but
yes,
a great atmosphere and a great stadium for rugby.
Well, one man who's going to be in the stadium, Matt Pearce, SuperSport presenter and commentator, joining us on the line from Dublin. Matt, a very good afternoon to you. This doesn't seem to be a Springbok team likely to be burdened by the past pretty much, but a tough game against a team that has really matched us and sometimes beat us.
Yeah, good afternoon, John. Good to be joining you from a bitterly cold Dublin. I don't know what's happened this week, but there is a cold snap here.
Yes.
The temperature's hardly got above 4 degrees this week. It is meant to be a little warmer tomorrow, but there is some rain forecast as well. Yeah, it's an interesting point you make about a Springbok team not being burdened by history, although you would have to say that if there's one team that has consistently given this generation of Springboks problems, it is Ireland, albeit with very, very narrow victories. So if you look at recent history, 4 of the last 5 games to Ireland have been lost. The one in 2017, 38 points to 3, that was the watershed game where Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Nienaber, they were coaching at Munster at the time, they were sitting in the stadium. And it was that experience, a 35-point defeat, which made them take a look at each other and say, maybe we have a role to play here and to go back. And they wouldn't come back here until 2022, that game that Jean referenced, 19 points to 16, that loss. That was the first game of the end-of-year tour in 2022. And the Boks went to Marseille and suffered a narrow defeat to France the following week. And it was that experience, actually, John, that led Rassie Erasmus to ask for the Japan game at the front end of this tour, because he felt that on that 2022 tour, the Boks were slightly undercooked coming into that first game of the tour. So, yeah, and then the narrow loss at the World Cup, and then the 1-point defeat the last time they met in Durban last year. So 4 of the last 5, 3 of the last 4, but all of those victories for Ireland within 1 score. So it has been tight. And yes, I just do feel, though, that despite the history, I think this Springbok team has shown, especially this year, that they're a very fast finishing team. They're very good in the final quarter. I think they're going to have too much for Ireland tomorrow.
Well, one always looks for little omens. The last time we beat Ireland, there were 2, each team had a player called Strauss playing at hooker. We had Adriaan and they had Richard, a good Irish name that. They both went to Grey College. Now, do we have any similar omens for tomorrow? Well, each team has a Lowe. Not a bit of a stretch. James Lowe, Lowe, playing for the Irish, and Wilco Lowe on the bench for the Springboks. But let's hope Jean de Villiers and the success he achieved will be matched tomorrow. And Matt Pierce, many thanks for joining us as well. Jean, thanks so much for your time. 702 Drive. It's 28 minutes past 5.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. SAA now operates 2 flights a day to Gaborone with morning and afternoon departures. Book now at flysaa.com. Here's Karabo Chale, G20 traffic difficulties, eh?
Yes, that's in the Kempton Park. R21 southbound remains closed off to traffic between Atlas and Voortrekker Road. This is causing more than an hour delay all the way from the Benoni off-ramp. So avoid that route if you're heading towards OR Tambo International Airport. Other highways restricted to traffic include the R24 approaching Edenville Road, the N12 heading towards the Gilulis interchange, as well as the N3 between the Gilulis interchange and the Batlu interchange. Kempton Park, CBD. You can expect more than an hour delay on Pretoria Road. This is between OR Tambo International Airport and CR Swart. Traffic is also sluggish in the area on CR Swart between Calvin and Zurfontein Road, and in Sandton heading towards Midrand, bumper-to-bumper traffic. M1 North between Ethel Oakland and Marlborough Drive. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Experience Johannesburg to Gaborone with South African Airways, where comfort meets convenience. Enjoy premium service, flexible morning and afternoon departures, and the warm hospitality SAA is known for. For a limited time, return fares start from just 2,762 Rand, all-inclusive. Book by 4 December at flysaa.com. South African Airways, bringing you closer. T's and C's apply.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, John. Yeah, a lot of red on the board, I'm afraid. The JSE All Share ending the day down 2%, 109,641 points. Financials down 1.57, industrials down 1.25, and then resources doing quite a lot of damage as well. They're down 3.64% on the day. This is one of those things that started really in the US yesterday. They opened positive and then they suddenly started crashing, and that kind of spread throughout the world really today, unfortunately, and not a lot we can do about it, but it is about sort of AI valuations. There's also quite a lot going on in our market, we shouldn't forget. So ASP Isotopes are down 18% on the day. I mean, that's astonishing, but that stock has been like this, a bit of a yo-yo for the last little while. It was up 21% a couple of weeks ago. Some of the gold and platinum miners, as you can imagine, down. Sibania's down 7%, Anglo Gold down 5%. SPAR also ending the day down after reporting their headline earnings per share to the end of September are likely to be 12% lower, despite the fact their group revenue growth improved in the second half of the year. The other big story, I think, is probably around Cell C. They're due to list next week on the JSE. But instead of being what we thought would be around 12 billion rand, their valuation is only going to be around 9 billion rand. Obviously, we'll see what happens when it floats, but certainly a lot lower. Maybe not a lot of demand for it sort of just as we go. And bear in mind, there is a kind of prepaid price war going on in those markets at the moment. We've seen what happens with Telkom. They've done very nicely, but we've seen Vodacom and MTN reporting lower prepaid numbers. AB InBev up 3.61%, British American Tobacco up 2.2%, and then 91 recovering a little bit. They're up 1.77. In the US, after what's been quite a tumultuous week, they are up now, but just. The Dow Jones is up 0.37, the Nasdaq is up 0.1, the S&P 500 is up 0.26, and then the gold price $4,068.83, platinum $1,515.52, Brent crude $62.01, the rand to the dollar 17.42, to the euro 20.06, to the British pound 22.80. On the Money Show tonight, John, looking ahead, of course, to the G20. A lot going on around it. The President's been talking. The United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has been talking. Emmanuel Macron is here. Narendra Modi is here. There's someone who's not here. I'll think about it over the next 20 minutes while I try and sort of remind myself before the show starts as to who isn't here. I don't know if maybe you can help me on that. Also tonight, we will also look at the business of selling scents. I do mean the smells. So we will look at the business of scent. this evening on The Money Show. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Rand's involved in cents, eh? Interesting stuff. Coming up on The Money Show, Stephen Curtis between 6 and 8. Don't miss it. Here's Mbali Dlamini with the very latest news.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Police say they are making notable inroads while investigating the murders of 2 women at a Tembisa school. Earlier this week, tragedy struck at the Inliweni Primary School when the principal and a clerk was shot while preparing for a meeting after working hours. A 26-year-old woman and a 35-year-old man have since been arrested for allegedly planning and carrying out the hit. Police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebuhulwi says the suspects will be appearing in court on Monday.
And is expected to appear before Tembisa Magistrates Court on the 24th of November 2025 on a charge of double murder with 2 counts. Police investigations are still ongoing on this matter. The 35-year-old man was arrested in the early hours of this morning.
To the Western Cape now, where it was an emotional day for thousands of women who joined in on the Cape Town leg of a nationwide demonstration against gender-based violence and femicide. The shutdown was organized by NGO Women for Change to highlight the crisis of violence in the country. In April, Women for Change handed over a petition to government asking for GBV and femicide to be declared a national disaster. A similar petition recently garnered more than 1 million signatures. Earlier today, government announced that it has officially classified GBVF as a national disaster. Carlo Peterson reports.
About 3,000 women and anti-gender-based violence supporters dressed in black took part in an emotional demonstration at Sea Point Promenade today. Those who had gathered lay down on the grass for 15 minutes at noon to mourn the 15 women who are murdered in the country every day. Many of the women could be seen shedding tears as the names of the women who were murdered in incidents of GBV were read over a loudspeaker. Advocacy coordinator at Women for Change, Melisa Jogiat.
It's been a very emotional day. We've had women crying because we recognize how many sisters we lose to femicide every day. And I think the turnout has been incredible. But I think now everybody deeply resonates with the losses that we keep having because gender-based violence and femicide is not actually being really dealt with.
Jogiat says she hopes the shutdown will spark more meaningful conversations to address deeply rooted cultural issues around GBV and femicide. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
Let's stay in the Western Cape, where as the province heads into its high-risk fire season, the Cape Winelands District Municipality says all plans to battle fires are currently in place. The municipality briefed the media on its preparedness during a graduation ceremony of its new firefighters in Cape Town today. It says 90 million rand has been put aside for this financial year to prevent and put fires across the district. Ntutuzelonene has more.
The Western Cape has already experienced a surge in wildfires recently, with hot and windy conditions elevating fire risk across several districts. In the Cape Winelands, firefighters responded to at least 5 separate blazes a few weeks ago. Cape Winelands Fire Chief Wayne Josiah says it's all systems go in the province.
We have regular conversations with our other fire chiefs within the Western Cape. We have ironed out details in terms of partnership, not only with districts and city, but also with our partners, FPA, Cape Nature.
He adds that the new recruits are also ready to be deployed to the fire battlefields. Ntutuzelonene, Eyewitness News in Cape Town.
A partly cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon thundershowers expected. Lows of between 12 and 13 degrees and highs of between 28 and 30.
Some good news in Kempton Park. The R21 southbound has been reopened to traffic. That's between Atlas and Voortrekker Road. However, you can still expect more than a 30-minute delay all the way from the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Still in Kempton Park, you can also expect about a 30-minute delay on Pretoria Road between OR Tambo International Airport and CR Swart.
The top story in EWN, police say they are making notable inroads while investigating the murders of 2 women at a school in Tembisa this week.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Mabota, 1 to 3 p.m.
There was a period now where I think many people were like, oh, Brenda disappeared. Tell us what was happening in real life.
At some point, I was dating a German guy, and I went over to Austria, and on one of the trips back, I was sitting at the airport in Dubai, and I was like, oh my goodness, I know the orange lanes and the green lanes of the trains in Austria and in Berlin, but I actually don't understand the Eastern Cape. So when I was sitting at the airport in Dubai, I decided that when I get back, I'm going to get to my apartment in Sandton, packed everything up, took a picture and sent it to my mother, and I said, I'm going home, which was the Eastern Cape. Obviously, you know, she was like, oh, Brenda, what are you doing?
702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Imagine a place where festive lights sparkle, kids laugh, and every treat and treasure you buy changes a life. That's the Parkview Christmas Market. Join us from 21 to 23 November at George Hay Park for 100 unique food and craft stalls, a sparkling oyster bar, live entertainment, and a kids' activity wonderland. Every purchase supports local charities, bringing joy to those in need. Bring your family, friends, and festive spirit. Parkview Christmas Market, where joy meets giving.
Kick off to glory with Hollywood Bids and Aziz Shege. Be in the game. Go full speed ahead with the epic competition. You stand to win a share of 4 million rand in cash and prizes, including an all-new Toyota Corolla Cross. Bet 10 rand or more on any soccer fixture or fixtures online or at your nearest branch. Live life in the fast lane. Bet now for your chance to score. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Business Outsurance are experts in business insurance for real estate agencies, law firms, computer services, and more. Jacqueline?
We saved a lot of money when we switched over from another insurance company to Business Outsurance. We've had some claims and they were friendly and efficient and paid out when they promised.
Switch to Business Outsurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Visit outsurance.co.za. Switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
EWN Sport.
The very latest sports now with Tolakele Mganga. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. Themba Bavuma insists the Proteas won't be playing for a draw when the second test against India gets underway tomorrow. South Africa are 1-0 up in the two-game matchup and can seal a series victory in the country for the first time in 25 years.
Every game you got to play, you got to win. So I think our mindset is not on protecting the lead that we have. We wanna play from the front, and we will continue to do so. So we'll play what's in front of us. We understand that yes, light does become an issue, but yeah, we don't want to go in there with that defensive type of mindset.
Dane Fanny Girk has been recalled to the Proteas women's T20 and ODI squads for the white ball tour against Ireland. There remains no place for Anika Bosch, and coach Mandla Mashimbi has discussed what she needs to do to earn a recall.
Nobody's out of my plans, nobody. Every player that's playing domestically is part of my plan. They just need to put in the performances. And if the performances are good, then they become a big headache for me, which is a good headache, really. But no player in South African domestic cricket is out of my plans. So they just need to put in the performances, and then, hopefully they'll get back into the Proteas environment.
Miguel Cardoso insists that winning the CAF Champions League is not an obsession for Mamelodi Sundowns. His comments come ahead of their opening group game against St. Eloi Lupopo as they look to go one better than last year's runner-up finish.
What we will do is be loyal to ourselves. And being loyal to ourselves is obviously knowing that we have a desire, we have an intention. I don't think that the word obsession is the right one, because obsession for me is a little bit already a medical state. But a pursuit of an objective should be done with all the energy that you can put on. And that's what you obviously are going to put.
Arne Slot says Liverpool will never use their grief over the death of Diogo Jota as an excuse for bad results, as they seek to arrest a run of 5 defeats in 6 Premier League games. His comments come after Andy Robertson revealed in midweek that he couldn't get Jota out of his head. That's hours before Scotland beat Denmark to qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
I know that it is an issue for us, which is, I think, completely normal. But at these moments of time, we always think about how must it feel for his wife and his children, because that's so much harder for them than it is for us. We miss the player and the person. That is completely clear. It tells you even more now we play Nottingham Forest. And last season, we were 1-0 down at Forest. And it only took him 1 minute to score the equaliser. So now I'm talking about the player that we miss for sure, because this time we haven't managed to come back as many times as last season.
And Rassie Erasmus says they would consider recruiting Jacques Nienaber as a consultant for the 2027 World Cup. The former Springbok coach has been a revelation since joining Leicester, while Erasmus has discussed the possibility of a reunion that's ahead of the Boks' outgoing clash against Ireland tomorrow.
I would never want to ruin his relationship and reputation here in Ireland. But if Jacques tells me or Ireland allow him to consult in the year of 2027, and we have the money to afford him in that year. There's no egos in our management coaching team. No, we'll a brain like him. I think the Irish might also use him, or the English might use him if he's got that. I don't know what his contracts say exactly, but yes, we will have a look at that.
Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
To the roads we go. EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. You could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. On a difficult day, listen up. Here's Karabo Charlie.
Ekurhuleni not looking too good, particularly in the Kempton Park area. R21 southbound, however, has been reopened to traffic, but traffic remains heavily backed up. This is all the way from the R24 Popsfontein off-ramp. Still in the Kempton Park CBD area, expect about an hour delay on Pretoria Road between OR Tambo International Airport and CR Swart. There's also delays on CR Swart between Calvin Street and Zuurfontein Road. And in Bursley, still in Kempton Park, bumper-to-bumper traffic on Pretoria Road between Elgin and Morafontein Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. Like a man wearing his finest suit on his way to an interview. He's prepped 100 times, but he still has butterflies. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic. It's a potential lucky break that could change someone's life. Every story's different, and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005, in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive to wrap up the week and wrap up today's show. A song, a book, and a dish. We'll talk about it in the company of Dr. Fiona Ramsey, voice coach, actress, and lecturer. That's coming up.
For generations, the world has spoken about Africa.
More needs to be done to ensure that the prosperity is broadly shared.
Now, for the first time, the world's leaders gather on African ground.
This summit's location underscores the need for African voices to be heard.
On the 22nd and 23rd of November, the G20 summit lands on our soil. A moment where South Africa doesn't just host the conversation, we help lead it.
The majority of the 54 nations that now comprise Africa were never offered a seat at the table where plans for a new world order were being drawn.
From solidarity and equality to food security, poverty, and climate justice, this is where Africa's voice rises, not as an echo, but as a force. And as history unfolds in real time, EWN, 702, and Cape Talk bring you closer to every decision, every voice, every detail that shapes our future. Stay with us and stay connected to the story being written on home ground, on air, on the EWN app, and on primemediaplus.com.
Study your law degree at Regenesis Law School in Sandton or online and build a successful future with leading multinational corporations, or launch your own legal practice. A Regenesis law degree is profoundly transformational, shaping intellectually sharp, fearless warriors of justice and purpose-driven lawyers. Regenesis is Africa's fastest-growing education institution, with 1,000 multinational clients across 12 countries and a faculty of 100 industry experts. Enroll now for your law degree at Regenesis Law School at law.regenesis.net.
This festive, turn your family meetings into family eatings with the Nando's Festive Fill-Up Meal. A full flame grilled chicken, 2 sharing sides, 4 cheesy rissoles, 2 Cabo Societies, 2 Nando's rolls, and a 1.5-liter Coca-Cola for only $3.99 to enjoy at your place. And if your family meeting is at our place, get 40 Rand off. Nando's, Oh, what a place.
The Dial-A-Bed Black Friday sale is now on with 20% off absolutely everything. Start Black Friday shopping today and save thousands on all our best brands. 40 Winks, Sealy, Simmons, Dunlopillow, King Coil in all sizes, all less 20% and all ready for fast delivery. Dial-A-Bed. Sleep for life.
As South Africa assumes the G20 presidency in 2025, 702 and Standard Bank Group bring you exclusive conversations with the voices shaping Africa's economic future.
All African countries borrow on international markets. And if through this particular G20 agenda, we can encourage a situation where African countries find themselves with lower cost debt, then of course it enhances fiscal metrics and fiscal sustainability. Another area of commonality is related to resources. The continent is resource rich, whether it is base, precious metals, or even rare earth metals.
Brought to you by Standard Bank Group on 702. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
A song, a book, and a dish.
On 702.
702 Drive. My guest today on A Song, a Book and a Dish has starred in movies and on television series and regularly and often and with great distinction on the stage. We spoke to her a couple of weeks back. She's a voice coach who's worked with actors, helping them to craft credible South African accents so they can play the parts for which they have been cast. She works as well as a lecturer, acting to inspire and educate the next generation of people who will do that kind of work in our theatre, in our movies, and so on. Dr. Fiona Ramsey, welcome to 702 Drive.
Good evening. Nice to be here.
So, Fiona, I mean, you grew up in Joburg. You describe it as the leafy suburb of Forest Town. Lots of jacaranda trees, lions roaring at night from the zoo nearby. How do you think where you grew up shaped who you became?
Oh, I think very much so. I think, we are all aware of, the kind of regime that we lived under. But at the same time, being quite young, you were maybe not as aware as you might have been. And I think the carefree days, the carefree nature of life in those days, for certain members of us, was very much more different. You could run in the streets, people talk about it. I don't know if you've ever heard about that book by Dennis Hurson called I Remember King Kong, the musical. And it's a litany, basically just a litany of, I remember when tennis balls were white.
Yes.
I remember when grass used to stick on your long woolen socks. And I think those are the memories of growing up in Johannesburg. I think absolutely where you grow up changes, influences very much how you develop as a person. I think growing up in Johannesburg was exciting, dangerous, but exciting.
So you went to Saxonwold Primary, then you went to St. Mary's. At what point is being on stage starting to get into your blood?
So I was a ballet dancer, a little girl in ballet shoes from the age of 4. But my dream was never to be realized. So I've always been sort of hovering in the wings of the theatre. But it was only really when I had to direct the house school play at St. Mary's that I had to take over the role, because it was the opening, it was the St. John's metric dance night. And so my leading lady thought the lure of the hockey pitch and a kiss was far more exciting than the stage. So she decided to go off and I took over. And that actually galvanized, I suppose, or endorsed, affirmed my wanting to pursue acting.
What else did you like at school and what else were you good at? I know the two are not necessarily the same thing.
I think I used to love tennis. I was quite a good tennis player. But as always, when you go through that sort of adolescent phase, it's far nicer to be looking cool and groovy and in jeans and not doing very much.
Yes.
It was kind of considered a bit unhip to be sportif. It was a little too serious. Everyone just hung out and looked cool. So, but I loved extramural studies at school. I loved drama. And I think I probably might not have become an actor had they offered drama at school, because it was an extramural activity that it was so sort of exciting and enticing, I think. But school generally, I enjoyed very much. I enjoyed communal sports and communal doing things together. I loved bossing people around and telling them what to do. So it was a fine place for me to develop.
I would imagine the family dinner table would have been an interesting place, with one caveat. Your dad, Raymond Lowe, was editor of the Rand Daily Mail, so I'm not too sure, given the print deadlines, how often he was there for dinner. Your mom, Jean Ramsey Lowe, was also involved in journalism and writing a weekly newsletter called the Southern African Report. You, the youngest, brother Derek, and your late brother Alistair, when you were all gathered round the table, what kind of, the conversation must have been very interesting.
Well, when my father was there, which, as you just pointed out, was usually not in the evenings, his supper would usually be kept waiting for him, and he would see the newspaper to bed first. But it was quite a lively table. My grandmother lived with us through a spell, of feisty Scottish grandmother, and she fought with my brother endlessly about political issues. My eldest brother. My youngest brother was only interested in becoming a rock star and a musician. And so it was quite a lively dinner table. When Raymond did join us, which was on Sundays, we were encouraged to talk. We were encouraged to have a glass of wine with our parents and not to go, please, no, not for me, and to enter into adult conversation. We were expected to do that. So I think he was very fond of us, my father. I think he missed out on a lot of our development in some ways. Maybe he was happy about that. But no, he was very encouraging and very supportive. They were both very supportive parents on anything their children decided to do, which was wonderful to grow up in that sort of environment.
So food, we ask you to pick a couple of things. Vegetarian food, is that your constant choice, that you only eat vegetarian? You've given us halloumi cheese with chili coulis, or freshly boiled artichokes, and we've got a whole lot of sauces to put on the leaves. Have you not been eating meat for a while?
I haven't eaten meat for, I think, about 50 years.
Goodness, okay.
I became a vegetarian many, many years ago. I married a bass player who was a vegan, so that sort of put pay to that for a while. But I think as we hurtle towards this 22nd century, and we have all these terrible climate issues and food issues, I think we have to steer towards a much more, a much cleaner way of living, a much cleaner way of eating, and a much less corrosive to our systems and to the planet. So without being a goody two-shoes, I'm very aware of veganism and of fruits and vegetables. And as I get older, I prefer it. I prefer a raw diet.
You gave us a choice of two books. I suspect there's a connection between the two. Let me give people both of the titles, and then share with us briefly why these books come to mind out of, I would imagine, the thousands you've read by now. Simone de Beauvoir, The Second Sex, and then Nobody's Girl, which is, I assume, is the story of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, if I've pronounced that correctly, who has spoken very candidly about her experience in the terrible things going on around Jeffrey Epstein. But you picked those two. Tell us why you picked them.
Well, I think today of all days as well is the national shutdown for gender-based violence, and I think we couldn't be at a riper time globally with Virginia Giuffre coming out, with this heinous and drug trafficking at such a pitch all over.
Yes.
It's just such a pandemic. So that's what really kind of but why I thought of Simone de Beauvoir, I was exposed to her when I was fairly young, and she was, in 1936, she was sort of discovering and breaking the boundaries of feminism and thoughts like that. And it just struck me today that it's such a long time ago since she made those inroads. we haven't seemed to have progressed very far. So it was almost in deference to what women still are going through, particularly in societies where gender-based violence is just out of control, and where organized crime and racketing and drug trafficking, sex trafficking is also so rife. I mean, I don't know whether this will be covered up or whatever, but I think she was a very brave girl to do that. And I think it sort of segues beautifully today with our 21st of November, which I think will stand as a time for us to really kind of stand for women. I mean, I noticed that it's being spearheaded by Women for Change. I kind of think that's so archaic. Do you know what I mean? Like, goodness, it's women for now, women equality.
So Fiona, I need to move on to your song, Just Checking the Clock. Now, you've picked something that you've sung not just while steaming your artichokes, but you actually did a whole show around the music of Marianne Faithfull. You've chosen Ballad of Lucy Jordan, the iconic album 1979, Broken English. Again, lots of music in your life, but you've picked this. Tell us.
I think what is interesting about songs, it's a bit like when Joni Mitchell revisited Both Sides Now. She sings it as a young, pure-voiced girl. And when she revisits it now, there's something unbelievably poignant about it. And I think that's very similar with Marianne Faithfull, because she sang it all the way through her career, and it became her anthem.
Yeah, it's a wonderful song, and thank you so much for sharing with us, Fiona Ramsey, your song, your book, and your dish right here on 702 Drive.
Thanks.
In a sports car with the warm wind in her hair, so she let the phone keep ringing, and she sat there softly singing little nursery rhymes she'd memorized in her daddy's easy chair. Her husband, he was off to work, and the kids were off to school, and there were oh so many ways.
702 Drive this week, like every week, produced by Jonathan Fairbairn and Rifue Letsua. Karabo Malapile is our technical producer. I'm John Perlman. Have a great weekend. Good night.
Through the shady street, screaming all the way. At the age of 37, she realized she'd never ride through Paris in a sports car with the warm wind in her hair. So she let the phone keep ringing.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
and DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a registered FSP. Good evening on your Money Show tonight. President Cyril Ramaphosa sets up the G20 with speeches this evening from Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Guterres, while our airports welcome world leaders. How the B20 helped to set up the G20 discussions. We also look at the business of the sense of smell tonight. And don't forget the Friday Biz Blitz. All of that to come, but first, the very latest Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Martin Slabbert. The Border Management Authority says the arrival of several heads of state has proceeded smoothly, with no disruptions reported at ports of entry. Over the past 24 hours, several heads of state have landed on South African soil ahead of the G20 Leaders Summit that's taking place this weekend. Among those who have arrived are Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Brazilian President Lula